across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. What a day. Tonight, England expects, of course, lots of World Cup coverage throughout the show. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan. I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get stuck in, get on the phone and call me on 03444 99 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number. And I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, July the 15th. Here's what's coming up. As I said, England expects, as our World Cup boys take on the old enemy Argentina in the semi-final grudge match. That is about so much more than just football. The BBC's veteran foreign affairs expert John Simpson says in all seriousness that if England lose, it will trigger a major renewed push by Argentina to take over the Falklands. If England win, Simpson predicts the famous victory will put the South Americans back in their box and the islands will remain exactly what they are, British. There's a lot riding on the shoulders of Harry, Jude and co. Come on, England. 0344 499 1000. And by the way, if you live in Portsmouth, annoy your unpatriotic council's pathetic flag ban by flying the St George's Cross wherever you can. And that goes for all those other Lib Dem councils that hate our national flag. Fly the St George's Cross, if only to infuriate unpatriotic Lib Dem councillors. Not a bad idea, eh? 0344 499 1000. And also, of course, to support our boys in the biggest match for a long while. In other news, as police probe alleged plans by the Ann Widdecombe murder suspects to assassinate more right-wing targets, Reform UK's Zia Youssef delivers a passionate speech listing egregious examples of the establishment's vicious rhetoric against Nigel Farage and his party. And Zia points to how this kind of over-the-top invective by politicians can turn radicalised keyboard warriors into violent lunatics. Youssef vowed that if he becomes Home Secretary, every MP will get full security, which will cost taxpayers an astronomical fortune. Should every single MP be given cripplingly expensive 24/7 protection? 0344 499 1000. Nigel Farage certainly should, after revealing that since February he has received 1,577 death threats, 597 of them on Twitter. They come at him at the rate of 300 a month. So why are people accusing Nigel Farage of whining, faux outrage and exploiting Ann Widdecombe's shocking death? Hasn't the Reform leader got a point about his security, his MP's security, and prominent politicians' security generally? Does something need to be done? 0344 499 1000. Also, on today's action-packed show, emotional moments as Britain's worst-ever leader, Keir Starmer, took his last Prime Minister's questions in the Commons, and his weekly tormentor, Kemi Badenoch, took her foot off the pedal and was actually nice to him. But she warned his Labour MPs that King Andy wasn't the end of the troubles. He was just the start of their troubles. And she conceded that nobody knows that more than a Tory. The Tories learnt, didn't they, as they kept jettisoning leader after leader after leader. A new Prime Minister doesn't sort your problems out. In fact, according to the Tory experience, it makes them even worse. Also today, we are going to deal with a shocking story that 2 asylum seekers who were given lengthy prison sentences for the rape of a poor woman on Brighton Beach. They got 21 years. Ibrahim al-Shafi from Egypt and Abdullah Ahmadi from Iran were found guilty of these shocking crimes October the 4th last year. But the judge said that there was no guarantee that they will be deported when they've completed their sentences. Why on earth not? Can't keep people like monsters like that in the country. What is going on? 03444 99 1000. And finally, very important question, Andy Serkis, who played Gollum in the Lord of the Rings movies, says that those films were very white. Did it bother you? Did you go and see Lord of the Rings and watch those epic films and go, oh my God, there's too many white people in this? What is wrong with these lovies? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Or is it? What do you think? 03444 99 1000. Right, let's get on with the show. We've got a lot to get through today. So let's go over to my first guest, who's a bit of a star today. He got the ball rolling with Keir Starmer's very last ever PMQs today. A warm welcome to the Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness, Graham Stewart. Hi, Graham.
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very well, and I'm rather sort of daunted by your utter fame today. Let's have a look at your moment in the spotlight.
Most of us, Mr. Speaker, can only dream of playing the role of Jude Bellingham, scoring the winning goal, leading our team to victory. Yet the Prime Minister did it. But politics, like football, is a ruthless game, and he's now been handed a red card by the 400 dodgy referees behind. What advice, Mr. Speaker, does this Prime Minister have for the Right Honourable Member for Makerfield to ensure that he, unlike himself, doesn't end up with an early bath?
But, Mr. Speaker, I think that's the first and sadly probably the last time I'll be compared to Jude Bellingham. But I thank him for that. And on the question of red cards, I can't tell him how much incoming I had a week ago Monday after President Trump intervened for their red card, for me to get the England red card adjusted. Just for the record, Mr. Speaker, I didn't attempt. But for my successor and for the England team, I won't give advice. I will simply give my wholehearted support. And Mr. Speaker, just for the record, I don't care what the score is tonight, as long as we win.
Well done, Graham. Very nice moment, and I thought the tone of his final PMQs was good. I thought Kemi got it right. But you kind of alluded in a comical way to the situation we have now, and Kemi repeated it. She said, look, as a Tory, no one knows more than her, and people like yourself, that just changing your leader is not the end of your problems, and often it's the beginning of your problems. You know, the Tories went through 14 years of ploughing through a leader every couple of months, it seemed like. And every time they changed the Prime Minister, it didn't make things better. Arguably, it made things worse. And that's what Kemi Badenoch said to all the Labour MPs who showed Keir Starmer the red card. You think that King Andy coming in as Prime Minister will be the end of your problems? She said, I think you'll find it will be only the beginning. It's a good point, isn't it?
It certainly is, because when you change administration, you get a whole load of new people in and they're very happy, but all the ones that you push out, they become unhappy. And in a parliamentary democracy, we don't elect a president. That's why I don't say that he should automatically hold an election. He has to command a majority in the House of Commons. And the truth is he's going to find that harder going forward when he makes all the changes. And he's already running away. I don't know if you saw, Kevin, but yesterday was a huge ruckus in the Commons because at the last minute, the government took away the opposition day that was scheduled for today, in which we were going to demand Parliament sit an additional day on Monday so that Andy Burnham could set out his plan for the nation, tell my constituents who want to know the decisions he's going to make over the next weeks and months and years that'll affect their lives, how much, if they get paid, whether they keep a job, whether they can afford to pay the bills. And they cancelled the opposition day because they didn't want to have that vote. So he's running for it. And if he's not prepared to be in Parliament, if the mayor of Manchester for all these years has forgotten that actually he's got to keep the confidence of people in Parliament because they represent the people, then he's not starting very well. And I fear for him.
Indeed. Let's run through some of the other big stories of the day, Graham. They're not all political, and this one isn't. Although politicians should probably do something about this. This is shocking. You will recall last October, there was this horrific case in Brighton where 3 migrants, asylum seekers, raped a poor local woman. I think they took her into a beach hut. They today in court, Hove Crown Court, 2 of them got 21 years each in jail, and the other, who was seen as a secondary participant in this horror, got 18 years and 6 months. All 3 will serve a further 6 years on extended licence. Now, it was pointed out in court that when they complete their sentences, and this is what I'd like your thoughts on, there's no guarantee that these 3 animals will be deported. That's just insane, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. It's horrific, the way she was treated, the fact that it was filmed, they were laughing, spitting on her, doing the most appalling things, and we should celebrate the fact that they've got severe prison sentences and congratulate the police on doing their job. But, as you say, the idea that these people who came here illegally in the first place are not deported from this country is outrageous. It'll cost us a fortune to house them, and I hope and expect that steps will be taken to ensure that they are deported, preferably before the end of their sentences, so they leave the relatively cosy UK prison. We get undertakings from the country from which they came, unlikely in the case of Iran, admittedly, but perhaps Egypt, that they will get banged up there in prison a lot less salubrious than they would enjoy in the UK. But it's these things which just undermine public confidence in the whole system.
Let's just
recap. Get them out, and that's why we need Kemi's Borders Plan, which is saying if you come here illegally, we're going to leave the ECHR. Well, I've said to you before, we'll take the photograph, we'll take the fingerprints. If you come here illegally, doesn't matter. I mean, in this case, just utterly awful. But even if they haven't broken any other crime apart from any other law apart from coming here illegally, they are never allowed to remain in this country. Everyone who comes here illegally should be deported as quickly as possible, because not one of them is immediately fleeing a war zone. They're coming from France or somewhere else where they could perfectly
they're liars, yeah. But these 3, let's just swift. I don't want to go into all the horrible details. But, you know, this was a lady who'd had a couple of drinks. She was making her way home. They took her into a beach hut. They filmed her while they defiled her. They laughed. They spat at her. They danced around her. They treated her, as she said, like a piece of meat. She said they violated me in every way. She said they destroyed my life that night. They took something from me nobody had the right to do. Now, as I say, the judge said in passing sentence, she said that there was no guarantee that these monsters will be deported when they finish their sentence. And her name is Judge Christine Henson, KC. And I just don't understand, Graham. And we should, you know, changing laws is very much the fashion right now. We did it very swiftly last week to change the licensing laws so people could go to the pub to watch England against Mexico into the small hours. So they can change laws quickly. This should be automatic. Foreign nationals raping someone in the worst possible way, serving very long sentences, I hope they don't get too much remission. But the moment they come out, it should be automatic. It should be in our laws that they go. The fact that it isn't is frankly bizarre.
Yeah, well, if you've got a rights-based system, which we do under the ECHR, then that's interpreted by the courts. That means, as well as the public interest in being protected, the public interest in justice, there are also concerns, rights to family life, these other issues which have taken a specific form through the courts from the ECHR. That's how you cannot guarantee that they'll be deported. That's why Kemi Badenoch has said enough is enough, Kevin. Leave the ECHR, pass clear UK legislation which isn't subject to some judicially interpreted test from abroad, and make sure that people like that are deported, and deported as quickly as possible, because that's what the public demand. Your right to express it, and we in Parliament need to ensure that that's enacted and delivered. And I hope, you know, the Labour government may not be quite there yet, but I think they're going to be listening. They're going to be hearing the people. They're going to see cases like this. Don't tell me that there's a Labour MP who'd want to be on this programme now defending this situation, because I hope there wouldn't be.
It's indefensible.
They will want to make that change, and good on them if they do.
A quick word from you, Graham, if you will, about really the story of the last few days. Let me put it this way. What do you think of people, some politicians, people in public life, who are accusing Nigel Farage and Reform UK of exploiting the death of their friend and colleague Ann Widdecombe, for the murder of Ann Widdecombe, for political purposes? What do you think about that?
Well, I knew Anne, and liked her. She was a weird combination, wasn't she? She was deeply principled, highly religious, and yet had an amazing sense of humour. She was a lovely lady, outspoken, obviously a proud Conservative, and then she joined Reform and was part of that family too. So I like Anne. The last thing I want to see after this tragedy, as her family has said, is to have it politicised by anybody. And I hope it wouldn't, you know, her death wouldn't be used either to add to any perceived persecution of Nigel Farage, nor would it be used to try and justify some of the questionable things that have also happened. So I would just want to remember, as Kemi said today, let's try not to remember the ghastly end that Ann Widdecombe suffered. Let's focus on the great life.
Yeah, let's treat her death with dignity, and let's not use it as a reason to squabble like petulant teenagers. It's ridiculous. Graham, excellent to have you on the show. Fabulous in PMQs today. You got a future in showbiz, I think. Graham Stewart there, Tory MP for Beverley and Holderness. Next up, we're going to talk to Rear Admiral, or ex-NATO Royal Navy Commander Rear Admiral Chris Parry, about John Simpson, the veteran foreign affairs expert at the BBC, who says tonight's big grudge football match between England and Argentina is about a lot more than just football. It may well determine the future of the Falkland Islands. Extraordinary. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
I've thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Count Binface apparently is now 5-1. and the British, you know. So look, I mean, you know, if I were being flippant, I'd say Count Boniface's campaign is now well and truly up and running, and Reform are struggling to put a lid on it.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to ex-NATO and Royal Navy Commander, Rear Admiral Chris Parry. Welcome, Chris. Are you a football fan? Are you cheering England on? I hope you are.
Well, I'm a rugby fan, but of course I'm cheering England on. It would be craven not to do so, and all my Welsh, Scottish and Irish colleagues are as well. Those I cherish anyway.
Right, John Simpson, the veteran foreign affairs expert at the BBC, has been there, I think, for about 723 years. But he knows what he's talking about. He said that this match actually, in all seriousness, is about more than just football. I mean, it is the old enemies taking each other on the football pitch. You know, and of course in 1982 we took each other on the Falkland Islands, and by the way, can I remind everybody, Britain won that match easily. Now, but what John Simpson says is that in all seriousness, if the Argentinians win tonight's match, heaven forbid, but if they do, it will seriously trigger a major push by Argentina to take back what they call the Malvinas, the Falkland Islands. It will literally turbocharge their campaign to get those islands. If England win, Simpson says, it will put the Argentinians back in their box and we won't hear anything from them. I mean, they have been behaving in the past week in a very childish way, may I say, about the Falkland Islands. You know, their foreign minister, secretary, standing up and saying, oh, it's time for, you know, it's illegally occupied. It's time to give these islands back to us. Well, I'm not sure they ever had them. And also, the people who live on the Falkland Islands are British, want to be British, so this is an issue of self-determination. But interesting that someone like John Simpson thinks that this match is about more than just football.
It's silly, Kevin. It's totally silly. This is a game of football. I mean, the implication is if we beat Argentina, we'll be playing Spain for Gibraltar in the final. You know, you can extend.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I mean, you know, it's absolutely silly, and I think John Simpson's made a complete fool of himself. The fact of life is there's no comparison between football and warfare. And as you said, you know, we gave them a real drubbing in 1982, and I hope we'll stick it to them tonight, frankly. but you know, I'm afraid the sort of things we're seeing from Argentina are the sort of emotional incontinence you have from very young democracies where they've got freedom to speak, but they don't actually have the sense to see where the geopolitical issues are.
That's it. That's interesting because, you know, there's no doubt that the Argentinian foreign minister was using this match for political purposes. We're looking now, if you're listening on the radio, folks, we're looking at Argentine fans dancing around, burning the Union Jack. I mean, they are very energised about this. It's not an exaggeration to say they can't stand us. They hate the Brits.
Kevin, if I may, they don't really hate the Brits, to tell you the truth. What they really hate is the fact they lost in 1982. Seriously, they are seriously bad losers. And that's why it's going like this at the moment. You know, if we turned up now, you know, mob-handed, they back off. There's no question about it. As I said, it's emotional incontinence. And I'm afraid to say the more countries are in touch with their feelings rather than their rationality, the more this sort of stupid behaviour comes to the fore. And as I said, I'm amazed that John Simpson thinks that that is a credible way of thinking about geopolitics.
But, I mean, on a general basis, talking about the Argentinians' obsession with what they call the Malvinas, which I learnt this week, by the way, Chris, is not even a Spanish word, it's a French word.
They
have an obsession with these islands, and I think they can go to hell, because I'm a big fan of self-determination. The people who live on those islands are British. After the Falklands War in 1982, there was this weird anomaly that they didn't actually have British passports, but we put that right. They're British passport holders, they're British people. If you ever go to the Falklands, it's more British than Britain, and they want to remain a part of the UK culturally, if you like. So the Argentinians can't have those islands. They've never had them. Why don't they just give this up?
Because, as I said, they're bad losers. They can't get over what happened in 1982. It's really turbocharged any sort of grievance that they had. They think proximity equals ownership. I mean, for that reason, we could take Ireland back because that's pretty close to us, isn't it? Or the French could take back the Channel Islands. The fact of life is the Falkland Islands are a real success story. If you go to the Falklands today, and I've been there recently, you've got a really prospering economy from tourism, fish licensing, agriculture, and soon we're going to be pumping out lots of oil from some of the oil and gas fields to the north of the Falklands, which is in our economic zone. And, you know, the Falkland Islands aren't small. They're the size of Wales. Everybody thinks they're like the...
Little, yeah, like the Isle of Wight or something, yeah.
Yeah, they're not. They're big. And, you know, they've got a lot of sheep as well, just like Wales. It's a success story. And I think people are very quick to write it off. It's a long way away. Of course it is. But as you say, emotionally and intellectually, they are right close up with us in Britain.
And of course, the Falklands now, the problem in 1982 was we'd never done much about it, so they were a sitting duck. But after our triumph in the war against Argentina, we have taken the right steps. It is now very well protected, very secure territory. So
the basic problem we've got, Kevin, is we've got elements in our government and also in the Foreign Office who are desperate to give them away.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit of an inconvenience for them. And I'm afraid to say these sort of people need to be outed. If you're working for the British government, either at the political or the official level, you need to be looking after British interests and those of the Falkland Islands. We shouldn't tolerate any shilly-shallying over this.
Absolutely right, Chris. But as for football, let's give them a hammering tonight. Great to talk to you, Chris. Thank you very much. Rear Admiral Chris Parry there, ex-NATO and Royal Navy commander. Let me know what you think about the Falkland Islands. They're never getting the Falkland Islands off us, right? The Argentinians cannot have the Falkland Islands. Let's ram that home to them right now. You can burn our flags, you can dance and skip around like excited kids, but you're not having the Falkland Islands. Got it? 03444991000. Next up, we're going to talk to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. We're going to get the latest on the Ann Widdecombe murder investigation. And we're going to dwell on Zia Yousaf from Reform UK, who delivered a rather passionate speech this morning about the establishment's rhetoric, their invective they use against Reform UK, you know, calling them Nazis and fascists and enemies of the state and worse than Russia and all that kind of stuff. He says that that kind of rhetoric by politicians, by the establishment, fuels keyboard warriors and turns self-radicalised loners into violent lunatics. We will talk about that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, good evening, Kevin.
Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about the investigation into Ann Widdecombe's murder. The suspect is still being held. It is alleged they found comprehensive amounts of left-wing extreme literature at his house in Rotherham, and they are investigating his possible plans, his potential plans, to target other right-wing politicians, which once again begs the question, and we keep coming back to this, it makes Devon and Cornwall Police look even more ridiculous that they spent the weekend telling us, you know, you don't have to worry about this, no political motivation, no terrorism. I mean, Devon and Cornwall Police, someone has got to be punished for the ludicrous way they behaved all weekend because they've embarrassed themselves, they look stupid.
Well, sorry, Kevin. I think the operational officers have done a good job with Devon and Cornwall Police in actually identifying and finding this man. But you're right to criticise the senior officers who have, let the side down here. You know, these stupid briefings where they're saying they don't know the motive, and then they claim that there is no political motive. And we also have the issue. Nigel Farage says he was told by the Prime Minister that this was a burglary gone wrong. Well, how can it be a burglary gone wrong? We know that's just not true, and burglars just don't do that. But that information that the Prime Minister had must have come from Devon and Cornwall Police. So what are they playing at? If you don't know the motive, say that.
They didn't know, did they? That's the point. Why were they making these statements when they clearly did not know? And they've had the whole investigation taken off them.
I think, Kevin, one of the things is that they look, if it's a right-wing politician, they don't want it to be a sort of politically motivated thing. Yeah. If it was a left-wing politician, they possibly do. It's a sort of mindset that these people have. They all come from the same background, and there's literally no diversity of thoughts. I think it's just that their mind goes one way. It's a right-wing politician, it must be a burglary gone wrong. It's a left-wing politician, it must be some vicious right-wing attack. It is not the way the police should be.
Indeed. And by the way, I mean, you were very nice about the investigating officers from Devon and Cornwall Police. And I wouldn't want to necessarily criticise them, but it's hardly Sherlock Holmes, is it? This guy apparently drove from Rotherham in his little red car and allegedly, while entering Ann Widdecombe's home, left his car in the driveway. So fairly easy to get that number and trace his address in Rotherham. So
let's be kind, Kevin. We need the police to catch more criminals. So
well, I suppose, but
let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
It wasn't the case. It wasn't the cracking case of the century, though, was it? But it's not about them. It's about the senior officers who took it upon themselves to make sure that the people didn't get uppity. Don't tell them it might have been political when they didn't know. That is a disgrace, and somebody should be punished for that. Somebody should be accountable for the ridiculous way Devon and Cornwall Police embarrassed themselves by effectively lying to the nation all weekend.
And it would seem telling the Prime Minister things that just literally weren't true. Why not just say it is, we don't know what the motive is, it could be several things, and leave it at that, but they decided not to. And as I suggest, it's for those reasons of a mindset, and the police should not have mindsets, they should have open minds.
Moving on, this of course brings into sharp focus the issue of protection for prominent political figures, MPs, etc. Nigel Farage said at a very early stage, while the cops were still saying no political motive, he said this is quite clearly a premeditated murder, which of course it looks as if it was when they were saying no, it's a burglary gone wrong. So this has brought into sharp focus the protection of MPs, particularly Nigel Farage, who's had 1,577 death threats since February, 597 of them on Twitter alone. This is Reform UK's Home Affairs spokesman Zia Youssef speaking earlier about this issue at a press conference.
As Home Secretary, I will ensure that all members of Parliament, of all parties, are provided with round-the-clock protection. No matter how much I, Nigel, Richard or anyone else may disagree with your views, if you are an MP, you must be able to air them without fear. An attack on one politician is an assault on our democracy itself.
I mean, I'm all for that sentiment. It would be nice. But there's 650 MPs. The cost would be astronomical. Probably we would not be able to afford that. And the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, who's a good man on this issue, don't get me wrong, but he said, oh, every MP should be treated the same when it comes to personal protection and security. That's rubbish. That is rubbish. How many other MPs have had 1,577 death threats since February? None, I would suggest. You need to pick, what they should be doing is pick the politicians who are quite clearly the most clear targets and give them the protection they require, and perhaps not waste money on obscure backbenchers that no one's heard of.
Well, absolutely. If you've got a finite resource, you need to, make sure that you use that according to the actual need. If somebody's had 1,000 death threats, you should have far more protection than somebody who's had none. And it just makes absolute sense that. But, all these MPs can be advised on getting their own CCTV, on, having some kind of special locks, security measures. They're already told about this. But if we've got some security, let's use it for the people who really need it. And then we've got to consider there's not just 650 MPs. Ann Widdecombe was a former MP. So how do you manage that situation as well? So, like I say, security, let's have it done right, but let's give it to the right people.
Yeah, it's the only... it literally is unaffordable to give every single MP full protection, 24/7 security. I mean, that's not to say it's not an important issue. I mean, this is extremely worrying, but there are realities that we have to take on board here. In terms of the investigation now, Mike, give us the benefit of your experience. Where will the cops be at? We must be slightly careful. We don't want to do anything subjudicial or anything, but he has not been charged. They're interviewing him. I think they've got him for the next 8 days, and then they'll have to renew his incarceration if it's necessary. At some point, one assumes they will charge him. But given that they've had him now since Sunday, what will they be doing? Interviewing him, getting information from him? Obviously, this line about that he was potentially planning to murder other prominent right-wing politicians. The discovery, allegedly, of a lot of left-wing communist literature in his house. There'll be discovering new information as they go on and amending the investigation accordingly, I assume.
So there'll be several aspects to this. So firstly is all the wet forensics, all the DNA and fingerprints. That'll be carrying on. Take some time to analyse, and as new information comes in, each one of the times, if his fingerprints or blood or something like that have been found in the house, there'll be an interview and those matters will be put to him. Likewise, when all the searches are carrying on, that's both the hard search is finding books and pamphlets and diaries and whatever else, together with the digital forensics, examining his phone, computers, laptops, tablets, whatever else. Again, as more information comes forward, they'll have an interview strategy and those matters, why are you in possession of these documents, all this sort of thing. In addition to that, they'll be looking at his contacts, what were his other plans, and that much of that will be on his computer. And then we'll also be analysing the CCTV to see his exact journey to and from. So they'll be looking at the entire route down from Rotherham. He must have gone over several A roads and motorways. Petrol stations may have stopped, into the village. Where has he been captured and how has he got back? Are they in possession of the murder weapon? There'll be searches made for that, of course, and he may have ditched out of a vehicle, so they'll be looking for CCTV. So there'll be several lines for this inquiry still going on. And as you say, because it's a terrorist event, he would have had to been released by now, really, or charged if it was just a murder inquiry. But they've got him for a few more days, and given the serious nature of this crime, they may well apply for even more days because it can take it up to 14 being a terrorist offence.
Yeah, important to stress right now, he has not been charged. He is merely a suspect, but police are holding him, and they have stressed that they don't feel the need to look for anyone else. So make of that what you will. Let's move on. I want to get your take on this, Mike. These asylum seekers, migrants, two Egyptians and one Iranian, have been jailed at Hove Crown Court today for 21 years. Two of them got 21 years, the other got 18 years and 6 months, so pretty long sentences. All three will apparently serve a further 6 years on extended licence. These are the monsters who raped a poor woman near Brighton Beach. She was making her way home after a night on the town. They forced her into a beach hut and defiled her. They spat at her, they filmed her, they laughed at her. She, in court, said, they destroyed my life that night. They took something from me nobody had the right to do. They violated me in every way. So they've been given fairly long sentences. I wish it could be longer, but not too bad, I would say. They'll probably get out earlier than we would like, but reasonably strict punishments for them. But this is the shocking element of what emerged from this trial. The judge, Christine Henson, KC, said that when these people complete their sentences, their long sentences, and come out of jail, she said there is no guarantee they will be deported. Why is there no guarantee they will be deported?
Well, if you look at the law, Kevin, so under the Borders Act of 2007, the UK government can deport anybody who is sentenced for 12 months or more. So these characters, it would seem at first sight, are, you know, they're going to go, aren't they? Because, you know, 20 odd years and 18 years. But do you know what comes in now? Asylum, European Court of Human Rights. If they've applied for that, that can negate the Borders Act of 2007. It's absolutely insane. We need to be out of the European Court of Human Rights, and we need to be a sovereign nation who can simply say, we don't care, you're gone.
And should it not be, Mike, just a matter of law? Laws should be changed or made here, that if you are a foreign national and you can list the crimes, you know, once you serve your sentence for rape, murder or anything like that, deportation should be automatic. In a serious country, it would be automatic. The fact that these three monster rapists are not necessarily going to get deported from this country at the end of their sentences shames Britain, I think.
Absolutely shame. One of them will claim, you see, he'll say, I've been sentenced to death in Egypt, so I can't be sent back there. We're a stupid country. We have foreign criminals, but we're judged by foreign laws. We need to have our own laws. Why do we need Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all these great democracies, the United States of America do not need 45 other nations interfering in their judicial system. No one in the United States would accept a Mexican judge telling an American government that a terrorist or a rapist has got to stay in the States. We're absolutely ruled by fools who think this is a good idea. It's the European Court of Human Rights. We need out of it as soon as possible. So we are, exactly what you say, a sovereign nation where we can deport people as we wish.
It should be automatic. Al-Mahdi and Al-Shafi, the two main perpetrators, the other one did the filming. They arrived, they met and became firm friends after crossing the Channel in an illegal small boat from France in June 2025.
Kevin, it's broken Britain in a terrible tale where some lady has had her life turned upside down, been defiled, as you say. This is broken Britain that politicians have brought upon us. How is it? How can we sit here as a common sense nation and think these wicked individuals cannot be sent back nearly straight away to where they're from? How much money are they going to cost us being in our jails right now? We should have them shipped out. but there's too many people who believe in this absolute globalist nonsense.
I would only want to ship them out as long as Egypt and Iran. I don't suppose we get much of a deal out of Iran. Guaranteed that they would continue their long prison sentence there. I don't think they should be, you know, I've seen this before, where people just get them out of the country. Well, that means they, in a way, they get away with rape or sexual assault and they go back to their home countries and walk free. I don't think that's satisfactory.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think if he went back to Egypt, he'd face far more than a prison sentence, so that might be the best place to send him.
Oh, what a shame that would be. Mike, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much. That's Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. Let's go straight to break. When we come back, we'll talk to Jack Elson, the excellent political editor of The Sun newspaper, who was there, weeping, no doubt, with his box of Kleenex as the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, delivered his his very last Prime Minister's questions today in the House of Commons. Emotional scenes. As long as Jack's dried his eyes, we'll talk to him next. Stay tuned.
Thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Count Finface apparently is now 5-1.
Brilliant.
You know, so look, I mean, you know, if I were being flippant, I'd say Count Finface's campaign is now well and truly up and running, and Reform are struggling to put a lid on it.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Give me a call. Should those three rapists, asylum seeker rapists, who've just got pretty long sentences, 21 years and 18 years respectively, they could do even 6 years more than that on licence. Judge in that case in Hove Crown Court today saying there's no guarantee they'll be deported when they come out of jail. We've got to do something about that. Why is it not guaranteed? Should we change the law to guarantee that rapists, sexual assaulters, foreigners who rape British women here are deported at the end of their sentence? Should we do that? 03444991000. Let's go over to my next guest. He is the political editor at The Sun, Jack Elson. Welcome, Jack.
Hi, Kev, you're right.
Have you got over the emotion of the Prime Minister's last PMQs today?
Well, it was quite an emotional PMQs, actually. I mean, I've never seen the House of Commons chamber so busy. I was in there in the press gallery for that 30-minute PMQs, where Starmer actually left some of his cabinet in tears. We saw Rachel Reeves crying again in the House of Commons chamber. We saw Liz Kendall wiping away a few tears. David Lammy seems to be blubbing a little bit, and probably the ones that actually think they're going to lose their jobs more than anyone else.
I was going to say, I thought that's maybe why they're crying. These are their last few days in office. Before I get your further thoughts, Jack, let's remind ourselves of Keir Starmer's very final words in the Commons today as Prime Minister.
To my successor and each of you, I will give my full support. To all colleagues across the House, can I wish you good health and happiness? To all those in the gallery whose lives have been changed or improved by this Labour government, and all across the country who struggle to be seen or heard, you're the reason I came into politics. To my wife and children, I love you. Goodbye.
Quite nice, I must admit. However, Jack, no word to those of us whose lives have been made one hell of a lot worse by Labour. Some of it I found really annoying when he said, you know, I've stabilised the economy. Do me a favour. But I suppose that's politics.
Well, I think this is the thing. I mean, like, I've known Keir Starmer now for a number of years, and I think that, yes, he is a decent man, and clearly that is the tribute that Kemi Baker not paid to him. You know, these leaders go through the same trial and tribulations of being in frontline politics, the effect on their families, the security, the sacrifices they will have to make. But you're right, you know, Keir Starmer did, resign. One, because the electorate clearly didn't feel he was up to the job, but he had the worst poll rating of any prime minister in modern history. But also, it was a bit galling, I think, to see some of the politicians who have been the ones to twist the knife into him on the back benches, saluting him, blooding up, and the rest of it. And there is something a bit weird, I think, about British politics where, you know, you get a big send-off like that, even though the people behind him are the ones that gave him that firm shove out the door. Now, I think that Keir Starmer, I think he did a good job today. You know, he knows that the valedictory message, and he'll have one more next week on Monday when he formally resigns as Prime Minister and goes to the Palace outside Number 10. But you know, this was him bidding farewell to the House of Commons. I think he got the tone right. I think other people got the tone right. But you're right. There will be people out there that have actually, you know, suffered as a result of the policies that him and Rachel Reeves put in there. He is trying to fiercely defend his legacy. He's trying to cement his position in history. But, you know, the numbers speak for themselves, Kev. You know, the polling speaks for itself. Many people very unhappy with this Labour government. And, you know, Andy Burnham's really going to have a mountain to climb to restore Labour's credibility with the country.
Indeed. Neil Coyle gets the political joke of the week. He was asked, he's the one who is the only Labour MP to nominate a replacement for Starmer who is not Andy Burnham, and that was that stalking horse candidate Catherine West. He was asked, why did you nominate Catherine West? He said, well, because there was no room left to crawl up Andy Burnham's backside. And that's what we're looking at the moment. You know, all these Labour MPs jostling for position. Rachel Reeves pathetically hoping that she'll carry on as Chancellor. Good luck with that. But what's your take, Jack, generally on this new guy coming in? I mean, you know, we know what he looks like. He's been around for a long time. But the way he's been behaving ever since he became Prime Minister designate, King Andy, waltzing into Downing Street untroubled by democracy. They call him the submarine candidate. He has not been telling us anything, revealing anything. We don't know anything about him. We don't know really what his plans are. This is kind of worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's incredibly worrying just because we really do not know what he's going to be doing. You know, Andy Burnham has done, I think, one press interview in the past 2 weeks since he became the MP for Makerfield. During that campaign, we didn't really hear a peep out of him. And I think that actually there is an onus on an incoming politician who is not even, let alone a general election, let alone fight the general election and put your policy under scrutiny in terms of the wider public. He hasn't even faced the Labour leadership election. He's had a total coronation. And, you know, some people in Westminster here call him the coronation chicken just because actually he is running away. He is running away from any kind of scrutiny. He didn't answer press questions at his only keynote speech of the campaign. He hasn't answered any questions. He did quite a soft soap interview with LBC. He's just sat down with Gary Lineker, of all people, in which he also didn't really seem to say very much. And I do think that clearly there is no great training ground to be Prime Minister. And Andy Burnham was a cabinet minister under the Blair and Brown years. But Labour MPs seem to have in their heads that he is this incredibly popular guy because he polls well in Greater Manchester. And as I keep saying to people, Greater Manchester, being mayor of that, is a totally different kettle of fish to all of the problems that he's going to face on day one in Number 10. And people say, they look at his poll ratings and go, well, just look how popular Andy Burnham is. And I go back See how popular he is after a year in number 10, when he's having to deal with defence, when he's having to deal with illegal migration, tricky issues, thorny issues such as welfare. It's going to be then when we can really judge him and how well he's done. Because at the moment, it seems a bit of a blank canvas.
Yeah, as Kemi Badenoch said in PMQs to the Labour MPs, you think this new guy is the end of your problems. He said something to the effect, well, I'm from the Tory party. We've done this quite a lot in the past. And let me tell you, changing a leader isn't the end of your problems. It's just the beginning. To go back to Keir Starmer, he infuriated me by saying, as he signed off, I've stabilised the economy. What? I don't think you have, actually. What do you think was his worst mistake? I mean, you can talk about the winter fuel allowance, farmers' inheritance tax, of course, the Mandelson debacle. Was it one tipping point, or do you think it was just an amalgamation of all these catastrophes? He's just had this propensity for making really, really bad decisions, and then, of course, you turning on them.
Well, I'll tell you what our readers think, Kev. And we get this time and time again in our postbags. I'm sure it's the same with talkTV viewers as well, is this sense of unfairness in the country. And it really does encapsulate everything.
Yeah.
And Keir Starmer had a number of nicknames during his 2 years in power, but none stuck so much as two-tier Keir. The fact that you're putting migrants into five-star hotels while at the same time working people are being squeezed ever more. The fact that you're taking winter fuel payments away from pensioners at the same time of giving massive pay rises to train drivers. All of this sort of stuff really feeds into one big theme of fairness. I think that's what the British people are very worried about at the moment. Now, listen, clearly Keir Starmer, you can just take the last 24 months and just, go through an absolute timeline of chaos and calamity. Starting when he first came in, we had all of the doomsterism. We had annexing Rwanda on day one. We had winter fuel. We had big pay rise for train drivers. We had freebie gay. Sue Gray didn't have a plan for government. And then it seemed to just death spiral from there. Yeah. And really...
This show's only 3 hours long, Jack. We can't go through all of Keir Starmer's mistakes.
Sorry.
But
maybe he'll be the Prime Minister that can oversee the England winning the World Cup, which at least that'll then... you maybe have some sort of legacy.
Yeah, he will say that's my legacy. Thanks very much. Jack, great to talk to you. Thanks so much. That's the excellent political editor of The Sun newspaper, Jack Elson. Still with The Sun, former political editor of that paper, Trevor Kavanagh, joins me after the news. You don't want to miss him. Stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're talking about the murder of Ann Widdecombe, the investigation. We can say, because no charges have been levelled yet, that the suspect was allegedly found to have stored a lot of left-wing communist literature at his home, and police are probing whether he had plans to target other right-wing politicians. Today, a man was charged with an attempt on, or planning to an attempt to kill Nigel Farage. So it's all very much the issue of the day. Let's go over to my next guest. We're going to talk to him for the next 25 minutes or so. He is the brilliant former political editor, now political commentator for the Sun newspaper, Trevor Kavanagh. Welcome, Trevor.
Hi there, Kevin.
Good to have you on the show, as always. Before we get to, shall we say, rather more serious issues, what was your take on those emotional scenes in the Commons today as Keir Starmer bade a tearful farewell to the Commons on his last day as Prime Minister? I mean, it was all a bit kumbaya, but I suppose that's the right tone, wasn't it? I don't know.
Well, I think that, as is often the case with these sort of farewells to the so-called big beasts, when they're finally made to walk the plank by their own party, everyone, in a slightly sickening way, pretends that they all love him or her. And he is the latest ex-Prime Minister to pay the price. He did it quite well, and I think it was helped along by some fairly good jokes and some quite light-hearted criticism, which was intended to sting but not to really wound. And I thought that Kemi Badenoch was actually on very good form. She praised him for a number of things, well, at least one thing, which was the support for Ukraine and for President Zelensky. But she also made it clear that she's not going to miss this man. She's not going to be eager to give a warm greeting either to his successor and assassin, Andy Burnham. But I think it was all rather spoiled by the fact that as soon as it was all done, he scuttled out of the chamber as fast as his legs would carry him.
Yeah, or the thing that really, you know, I was trying to feel well disposed towards him. It was quite a task for me, but my efforts to do so failed at the moment he said, "I've stabilised the economy." I mean, you know, this man gaslit us. He lied through his teeth to us for 2 disastrous years, and he departs on that preposterous lie that he stabilised the economy. What a joke.
Yes. He came in promising change. The change, he said, that the people of Britain had demanded in the election, which gave him that loveless landslide. And the thing is that, yes, he changed it, but he changed everything for the worst. And he didn't tell us what he was going to change until it was too late. And we ended up with benefits in Britain. We ended up with no defences, a huge tax burden, increased tax burden, and a mountain of public sector debt, and many, many other things that our children and grandchildren have to pay for over the coming generations.
Kemi Badenoch, I think, sounded an excellent warning to the Labour MPs. She said, you know, as a Tory, you know, I can tell you this, you think changing your leader is the end of your problems. She said, let me tell you, it's not the end of your problems, it's just the beginning. And I think it's going to be worse than that. I think, I fear that within about a month maybe, but certainly within 6 months, we'll be nostalgically yearning to go back to the good old days of Keir Starmer running the country. I think Andy Burnham is virtually a communist. I think we have a very grim future under him. The worst, among his several worrying statements, that first of all, there was that outrageous statement saying that that Labour got it all wrong when when Starmer stood foursquare with Israel after October the 7th. That was outrageous, bordering on anti-Semitic, I thought. But for me, the really chilling statement was, I'm not going to be making any crude cuts to the welfare bill, the £350 billion a year welfare bill that is bankrupting this country and getting worse. And what he means by that, he's not going to be making any cuts to that grotesque bill, and that will spell disaster.
And nor to our hideous £3 trillion debt. I mean, that's going to grow. The amount that we're spending on that is over 100 billion a year just in interest alone. And that's going to grow under Andy Burnham. Look, I think that I've written a piece for tomorrow's Sun in which I say that when watching this farewell speech by Starmer, that we just fleetingly, I thought, we're going to miss you. But it was only for a briefest moment because of what lies ahead. And I think that Kemi was absolutely right to say the Tories have learned the hard way that by simply switching prime ministers, jumping onto another train doesn't work. And the thing about both Starmer and Burnham is that we don't know and didn't know when Starmer came into office what he stood for. We simply do not know what on earth Andy Burnham stands for. The interesting thing is that in this morning's newspapers, we learned that a few people in the cabinet have made it clear to Burnham that he cannot have Ed Miliband as his chancellor. Now, I think anyone with any sense, any brains at all, would agree with that. But it simply shows that he's already not in charge of his own government, his own cabinet.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you know this, Trevor. Unfortunately, Ed Miliband, under Andy Burnham, will get whatever job he wants. Andy Burnham's in his pocket. And if he wants to be Chancellor, Andy Burnham will make him Chancellor, and that doesn't even bear thinking about. Let's, if we can, Trev, return to what has been the topic of the last few days after the tragic murder of Ann Widdecombe. That's the safety of MPs, security surrounding them, particularly Nigel Farage. A man today has been arrested over a threat to shoot the Reform UK leader, and we learned today that since February, extraordinary, he has received 1,577 death threats. They're coming in at him at the rate of 300 a month. 597 of those death threats since February were on Twitter, or X as it's now called. So security for MPs, particularly prominent MPs like Nigel Farage, is a very serious issue. Today, Reform UK's Home Affairs spokesman Zia Youssef delivered quite a long and passionate speech about this very issue. Let's have a listen to a little clip.
David Lammy, now the Deputy Prime Minister, described Anne as a, quote, poisonous bigot who wants to, quote, drag us back to the 19th century and, quote, throw minorities out in the cold on the way. He boldly declared, quote, we must stand up to them before it's too late. Before it's too late. We're streeting. Until recently, the Health Secretary said, quote, if only science had a cure for Ann Widdecombe. A woman on Twitter said, quote, Ann Widdecombe better go this week. She is a little fascist beast. This woman happens to have been, until just a few months ago, the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls, Jess Phillips. Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, made the inflammatory declaration that, quote, the greatest threat to the Britain we love doesn't come from Tehran or Moscow. It comes from within. I'm talking about Nigel Farage.
I mean, he's right, isn't he, Trevor? You know, this rhetoric, this invective that the establishment politicians have taken or have always used against reform is incendiary. It creates a very fractious atmosphere, and as Zia pointed out in his speech, it tends to fuel these keyboard warriors and turn them from little weirdo loners into violent extremists. So while all the MPs and Ed Davey and the lot say, oh, it's very terrible about poor Anne, you know, they did use terms and language about her that, frankly, in retrospect, looks to be disgraceful.
Well, absolutely. And here you have the allegedly kind left-wing Labour Party actually being exposed for what it really is, which is a spiteful socialist party. It is a vindictive party. It wants to divide this society into haves and have-nots. The people it wants to destroy are the people who create the wealth in this country, because they are jealous and spiteful about them. They don't want them to have money, which means that there's no money coming in tax revenues, or less and less as time passes under this government. And I think that everything that Labour stands for is not diversity but division. It's not equality, it's exclusion. And it's not inclusion, it is isolation, because we are not a homogenous society anymore. We do not think of ourselves as British. We see ourselves as a divided and splintered society in which black and white, straight and gay, trans and non-trans, you name it, there are at each other's throats. And it's all engendered by this Labour Party.
Zia Youssef quoted the former safeguarding minister, women's safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips. The current safeguarding Minister for Women, Natalie Fleet, who took over from Jess. She looked at what happened over the weekend, the Reform UK MPs, Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, Zia, the whole gang went down to Devon to lay flowers and pay their last respects to their friend and colleague, Ann Widdecombe, who died in such shocking circumstances, murdered by some lunatic in her home, 78 years old. A 78-year-old frail old lady. And Natalie Fleet looked at this and said she was sick of Reform's faux outrage. What kind of mentality is that? I mean, Natalie Fleet does have this Cruella de Vil hairdo with a great big grey streak through her black hair. Quite an appropriate hairdo under the circumstances, I would suggest.
Well, yes, and as I say, this epitomises the attitudes and philosophy, if you can call it that, of the left of centre in politics in modern Britain, more, in fact, than anywhere else in the Western world that I know of. I think that it's a very peculiar place that we inhabit here politically, because, you know, if anybody had uttered similar words about a similar event involving a Labour MP, for instance, Jo Cox, in which everybody rallied in support of the Labour Party's MP on that occasion, nobody said a bad word about Jo Cox. Nobody said that she had asked for it or anything like that. What they're saying about Ann Widdecombe is truly reprehensible. It's almost unbelievable that they could utter these words and live with themselves. It says a great deal more about them and the Labour Party than it does about Ann Widdecombe, who was a decent human being.
She was. I knew her. A nice lady. Formidable, but nice. And very funny, she could be. Now, what do you say, Trevor, about critics, opponents, who accuse, there's a lot of commentators doing this right now on the newspapers and elsewhere, saying that Reform UK, effectively, when Ann Widdecombe was murdered, went, phew, that's handy. We can use this, exploit this to get our other problems, you know, the financial allegations, the £5 million bung to Nigel Farage, off the front pages. What do you say to people who are accusing Nigel Farage, Richard Tice and the gang of exploiting Ann Widdecombe's brutal murder and actually sort of treating it as something that really came in handy, convenient given the circumstances? What do you think about those commentators?
Well, I think that Nigel Farage quite rightly sees that this murder of Ann Widdecombe has vindicated his stand in favour of more security, which has been refused to him on the scale that he thinks, and quite rightly in the circumstances, is due to someone who's received hundreds and hundreds of death threats. And you've got one person actually being arrested for threatening to shoot him. So this is a real and present danger. And it's because he is Nigel Farage and the leader of Brexit, UKIP and Reform, that they are refusing to give him the protection he should be entitled to under any normal circumstances. So I think that he's actually being vindicated. Now, there's a big gap between that and understanding where this money has come from. It's come from a cryptocurrency billionaire, and cryptocurrency remains a shadowy device for moving money mysteriously around the world. So there are big question marks there, but the simple fact is that if that money was spent on Nigel Farage's security, then it was well spent.
Indeed. Let me get you lastly on a different issue. Now, last week, in order for people to be able to go to the pub and watch England-Mexico into the small hours, Sunday into Monday, Parliament, the MPs got together and changed the law, the licensing laws, in about 2 hours flat. Now, there's been calls on the government to change the law, this weird law that means we can't deport this released rape gang monster Shabir Ahmed because he became a British citizen and he was from a then Commonwealth country, Pakistan, before 1973. Really bizarre law. So, of course, people are saying, well, he's a gang raper. He raped 30 children. For some reason has been released after only 14 years. We need to deport him, so we need to change this law. Took Shabana Mahmood about a week to get the memo. She then said, right, well, yeah, we do need to change this law. And now we learn that they predict, or Shabana and the gang think, that this will take 1 year to change the law. How can they change the licensing law in 2 hours flat, and yet this important law to allow us to deport this monster, they can't change for at least a year? Maggie Oliver, you know, the whistleblower who campaigns on the rape gang issue, she says that she thinks the reason the Labour government are dragging their heels on this is they don't want to deport this man because of his, drumroll, human rights.
Well, this is absolutely true. I mean, look, a number of things have popped up over the last few days. First of all, Andy Burnham's apparent apology for Labour's stance on Hamas and Gaza and the attack on Israel and Israel's response, which tells you quite a lot about his attitude towards the
Israel and Jews, I would suggest.
Yes, Jews as well. But look, this is... when it comes to the lifting of the licensing laws, you've got to remember that football is basically the religion of the Labour Party. It's also the lingua franca. If you know about football and can talk about football, then Labour are happy to chat to you about that all day long, and especially Andy Burnham. When it comes to human rights, well, basically, everyone's human rights come first except those of British citizens. And because of what I said about the reluctance to upset the community, they'd rather have a convicted rapist of young girls who is the leader of gangs which are operated across the country and still do. They would rather appease the community from which these people, these vile people came from, than act in support of the victims and the rest of the society.
It's another one of Labour's craven bids to retain the Muslim vote. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And you're right about what Andy Burnham said about Israel. I mean, it was one of Keir Starmer's few statesman-like moments after October the 7th, when he immediately announced that he and his government stood foursquare with Israel after the Hamas atrocity. In his horrible little speech, his Instagram post, Andy Burnham never once mentioned the atrocity or Hamas, just droned on about Israel aggression and free Palestine and Israel's intransigence about the two-state solution, an intransigence that is shared by the Palestinians. So I think Andy Burnham may well turn out to be a very slightly better-looking version of Jeremy Corbyn. Trevor, thanks so much. Great to have you on the show, as always. That is the brilliant political columnist at The Sun newspaper, Trevor Kavanagh's got a great piece in the paper tomorrow. I highly recommend you read it. That guy knows what he's talking about. Listen, next we're going to talk about Gibraltar. Today, Spain is celebrating what they call the fall of Europe's last wall. So basically, Brits going to and from Gibraltar, which has always been a sort of British enclave, will now face long waits and be treated as if they're entering some kind of a foreign country. So looks like we're losing control of Gibraltar. We will talk to a journalist out there in that province next. Stay tuned.
I've thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Count Finface apparently is now 5-1.
Brilliant.
You know, so look, I mean, you know, if I were being flippant, I'd say Count Finface's campaign is now well and truly up and running, and Reform are struggling to put a lid on it.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, if you're British and you want to get into Gibraltar, which last time I looked at was British, it's going to take you ages now. You're going to have your fingerprints and passports checked. You're going to be treated like foreigners. Spanish people are celebrating this, running through the border last night to celebrate Spain's brilliant victory over over France in the World Cup. They're calling it the fall of Europe's last wall. Sounds like an embarrassment, a humiliation for Britain to me. We have our man James Niche, a journalist in Gibraltar. He is live at the border. He knows what he's talking about because he used to work here. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. How are you? As you can see, I am standing next to the border. I was trying to show you that the frontier fences, as you've rightly pointed out, have now gone.
So what is this as a result of? I mean, is it still a British province? Are the people who live there still British? Do they still have British passports? Or is it now part of Spain? What's happened here, James?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question and a really interesting concept, because one of the things that we've heard about in this treaty is that sovereignty is unaffected. This basically, Kevin, is a Brexit treaty that's been secured to make sure that life for people in Gibraltar and on the Spanish side continues to be fluid, because, of course, post-Brexit, and that was, as you know, 10 years ago, the people of Gibraltar didn't want to leave. We wanted to remain. We knew that leaving the European Union would cause a huge damage to our economy. And what this deal basically does is protect the economy of Gibraltar, protect the livelihood of 15,000 workers from Spain who come to work into Gibraltar every day. But we continue to be British. We remain with our British passports. And the Spanish people on the La Linea side continue to be Spanish residents. What we are hoping is that we're going to be better neighbours.
OK, but why, you know, if the Spanish people can just sort of waltz on in there, why are British people now facing fingerprint and passport checks and long waits? It seems to be a bit one-sided, doesn't it?
Well, I suppose it depends how you look at it, because
I'm looking at it from the British angle.
Already
That's the
in the Schengen
I'm looking
area.
at it from
so
the
what this deal does is it secures Schengen access for the people of Gibraltar and for anybody arriving in Gibraltar. So say, Kevin, that you flew to Gibraltar, you would have your Gibraltar passport check, which you would always have coming to Gibraltar. But then you go through what they're calling the Schengen Shack, which means that you, like if you travelled to, say, Italy or France, anywhere in Europe, you have access into Schengen. They clear you as the officers for Schengen to come into Gibraltar and, in effect, the Schengen area. And that means that from Gibraltar, you can literally go anywhere in the Schengen area. So you would go on to, say, Madrid or Barcelona, Italy, France, wherever you want, without showing your passport. Basically, what it does is it makes Gibraltar part of the Schengen zone. And I have to say, it would count towards your 90 days out of the 180 in the Schengen zone.
So this is a great deal for the Spanish, but it's a lousy deal for the British, isn't it?
Well, it's a great deal for the people of Gibraltar, who are
is
very,
it? Is
very
it?
British.
I thought
fact,
that. Why is it? Hang on a
second.
second. Hang on, James.
Into Spain, just to show you how
Why
easy
can't he
it
hear me?
is. So remember, there are thousands of Brits also living in this area. So the people of Gibraltar are British. That's 40,000 residents who would be hard done by a hard border. There are lots of British people who live in the Costa del Sol. The UK military, for example, because of course we have an important
James, can you hear me?
So UK military
James,
personnel
can you hear me?
are excluded from those Schengen checks. You know, they don't have to submit themselves to those. But look, it is one check, and that just helps so many livelihoods here. Look, as I said before, about 15,000. I'm in Spain, by the way, already. You can see how easy it is walking from Gibraltar to Spain. I'm literally going to walk back now. But 15,000 people from Spain are employed in Gibraltar. If they have to go through those e-gates and say that it takes 5 seconds for each of them to do so, 15,000. I mean, you do the maths. That would be impossible. It would choke our workforce and it would choke our economy. Now, the people of Gibraltar didn't particularly want the frontier to go. This is the best of a bad deal, and it's a new life for the people of Gibraltar that we've been forced to have because the UK decided to leave.
Can you hear me, James?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay. So, what's wrong with the decision that the people of Britain made? I still don't see why it's such a great deal for the British people who live there. Certainly not a good deal for the UK, is it?
Well, there was a Westminster Parliament debate, and there seems to be a cross-party support for this. So I don't think that everybody would share in your view. I get it, why some people don't think it's a good deal in Britain. Look, the reality is that some people in Gibraltar don't think it's a good deal.
Exactly, because it's not a very good deal, is it?
Wanted. And there is, of course, now a little bit of trepidation. How is it exactly? By the way, I've walked back into Gibraltar.
OK, James, thank you very much.
As easy as that.
James, got to go, mate. Thank you very much. That's James Niche, a journalist in Gibraltar, who I don't know if he could hear me or not, but he wasn't listening every time I asked a question. I think it's a terrible deal. I think this favours the Spanish. I think the British have effectively lost some kind of sovereign territory here. Are the Gibraltarians pleased about this? James seems to think it's terrific, and the Gibraltarians are really celebrating now that anybody British will take hours to get into Gibraltar, whereas the Spanish can just waltz on in. Do you think that's a good deal? I'm not so sure it is. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Caribbean nations demanding that Britain gives up territories as part of our reparations that they are demanding we pay them for slavery reparations. I think that's ridiculous. We'll talk about it next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the Caribbean islands here. As you know, they are demanding basically trillions of pounds in reparations because Britain used to own plantations and run slaves 300 years ago. They are now also demanding that we give up territory as part of our compensation to those poor people. Let me know what you think about that. I think we shouldn't give them a damn penny. 300 years ago? It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I don't even know why we give these people time of day. Just tell them we are never going to give you a penny, so shut up. That's my view on it. Very erudite it is too. But let's go over to social policy analyst Dr. Rakib Ahsan. Hi, Rakib.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm OK. You know, I do... You know, of course, slavery is a terrible thing. But it was 300 years ago. These Caribbean nations now adding to their demand for trillions of pounds in compensation from us over this injustice 3 centuries ago, now demand that we should give up territory as well. I think it's time to tell them to shut up, isn't it?
Well, I think it's time to look ahead and look to the future. I think that's the important point to make. And now, of course, Britain participated in the transatlantic slave trade. It also made a remarkable pioneering contribution, a serious humanitarian effort to suppress that very slave trade at great economic and human cost, especially the Royal Navy's West Africa Squadron. And they were ultimately battling a far more dynamic and sophisticated vessels, which were part of that slave trade. So I think that we have to make the point that there's considerable financial and moral sacrifice which was made by Britain in terms of suppressing the slave trade. That was a decades-long campaign. I think there's also a point to be made that we're talking about countries which gained independence ago. And I think that there's ultimately, there comes a point where you say, well, you've had national sovereignty, national control for some time. Maybe the problems that you might be experiencing as a country, whether they're social, economic, political or cultural, I think it's better to look within. And I think that some of the countries that we're referring to here, that there remain problems when it comes to quality of governance. And I think that this constant talk of reparations, I think problem, and I think that the UK ultimately has to, I think it's better to foster an agenda which is very future oriented. You talk about building relations in the modern age in the spirit of equality and partnership, using associations such as the Commonwealth to deepen cooperation in terms of trade, investment, education, healthcare. I think that's a better way of looking forwards, but I think we really need to do away with this talk of reparatory justice.
Yeah, indeed. Now, the key demand of these Caribbean countries, 15 Caribbean countries have a delegation has been sent to London to advocate for not only financial reparations but also territorial. They are proposed to address the effects of extractive colonialism, and the key demand would cover the handing over of British holdings in the Turks and the Caicos, Anguilla, Montserrat, the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. Well, the answer's no. And also, you know, this entire debate, you know, please compensate us for crimes that happened 3 centuries ago. I just think it's juvenile, it's infantile, it's ridiculous. We should say to them, just stop it, stop wasting our time with these ludicrous demands because we're not going to give you a penny. As you quite rightly say, let's indulge in an adult dialogue about how we can maybe help them move forward, but looking back and demanding trillions of pounds and the cessation of various territories, they're just trying it on and it's not going to happen. I think we ought to put our foot down.
No, absolutely. And I think some of the financial amounts which have been mentioned in terms of reparatory justice, I think that some of these calls are ultimately designed to bankrupt modern Britain, to be honest. And I think that more generally, when you're looking at the debate on reparations, we have to go right back to the supply chain, really, when it comes to slavery. Now, that involved very wealthy and powerful kingdoms in West Africa, including the kings of Dahomey. Now, are we seriously going to ask modern-day Benin for reparatory justice? So I think that what we're talking about something that's deeply complicated. The history is far from straightforward. As I said before, Britain did participate in the slave trade. It also
abolished it. It also abolished it.
It actually abolished it. And we had leading philanthropists such as William Wilberforce leading the effort in terms of the abolition of slavery. And I think there's grave financial and human cost that Britain incurred in terms of suppressing the slave trade. So I think that, as I said previously, Kevin, I think that we need to move forwards. We're talking about independent nation states here. In the spirit of looking ahead to the future, let's talk about how we can create new ties in terms of trade and investment, how we can bolster educational partnerships, how there can be greater environmental cooperation. But I really don't like this idea of reparatory justice. And I think there's some of the countries we're referring to here, without being too disrespectful, they should look within when it comes to their own system of governance if they're dissatisfied with their current economic situation.
Yeah, we abolished slavery, I think I'm right in saying, about 65 years before the United States of America did. So we led the charge on the global abolition of slavery and should be paid a little bit of respect about that by these nations who are frankly just trying it on. I just don't think that this dialogue surrounding give us trillions of pounds.
It's not helpful.
I just don't think it's grown up. It's not adult. Lenny Henry and some mate of his wrote a book recently which proposed that we did pay the Caribbean nations reparations for slavery, and their suggestion added up to literally trillions and trillions of pounds. I think it was something like 22 trillion pounds. Now, while they're being, in their own minds, very, very kind to the poor put-upon people of the Caribbean, had we have paid that amount, people in Britain would have been bankrupted. It would have caused massive widespread poverty. So the amounts that they talk about are just ludicrous, unrealistic. As I say, this debate about Britain's involvement in slavery in the Caribbean and elsewhere should be conducted on an adult basis, not these silly demands for massive amounts of money for crimes, if you like, that happened 3 centuries ago. It just doesn't make any grown-up sense to me.
No, it doesn't at all. And I think Lenny Henry's intervention in this debate is some of the funniest things he's said in decades, if I'm being absolutely honest.
Arguably the only funny thing he's ever said.
So I think that you're absolutely right. I think we need a more mature conversation. I think we can talk about even how do we foster a fairer global economy. I think that could be part of it. But I think this talk of repatriate justice, why on earth would working class families in modern Britain, why would they have to be expected to contribute towards that?
Exactly.
That mass redistribution of wealth on the international level. That's an injustice in itself, in my view.
You're right. If we do start paying these enormous amounts, it's working class people who will be paying for them. People who can not well afford that. You know, they'll be taxed to the hilt in order to pay slavery reparations. Absolutely absurd. Ain't gonna happen. I damn well hope. While I've got you, Rakib, we've got a couple more minutes. Your thoughts on the changing of the guard in Downing Street? Keir Starmer bidding a tearful farewell to the House of Commons as Prime Minister today. King Andy Burnham about to waltz into number 10, unburdened by even a hint of democracy. What are your thoughts about this guy who's taking over the helm? My worry is they call him the submarine candidate. They also call him the coronation chicken because he's been crowned and he's too scared to say a word. We don't know anything about him. We don't know what his plans are. I think that in itself is worrying. What are your thoughts?
Well, firstly, I'd have to say coronation chicken is probably my favourite jacket potato filling, if I'm being absolutely honest. But let's get back to the politics. Let's get back to the politics, Kevin. Listen, I think that compared to Starmer, Burnham is a more effective communicator, but that's an incredibly low bar. In itself, that's for sure. I think that there will be some changes in cabinet. I think that he'll probably move Shabana Mahmood from the position of Home Secretary to Chancellor of the Exchequer. In that sense, I think there's probably positive for the government to remove Rachel Reeves from that, if truth be told. I think we probably both agree that Shabana Mahmood's probably been one of the more impressive performers in cabinet.
She's better than I agree. She's better than most of the rest.
She's better than most. But I think what's important that if he does make that move, whoever replaces Shabana Mahmood or whoever's her successor as Home Secretary, it's important that those immigration asylum reforms that Burnham commits to that. I think that's hugely important because I think without that, I think he'll really struggle to reconnect with Labour's traditional working class vote. And we have to remember that he's the MP for Makerfield. Makerfield, if you look at the local politics there, reform dominates the local political environment there. So he has to, if he really wants to reconnect with those sort of more culturally conservative working class voters who habitually vote for Labour but have flirted with the idea of voting for reform, then he really should stick with those immigration asylum reforms. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I mean, but there were worrying signs yesterday. He's made noises to say he will back Shabana Mahmood's crackdown on the migrant crisis. But there are signs yesterday that actually he's going to seriously water down her proposals. In other words, he's going to skip to the beat of his left-wing Labour backbench.
But Kevin, I'll make this point. If he does that and he has Shabana Mahmood as Chancellor of the Exchequer, you can see at the heart of government there'll be huge tension there straight away. So I think that'd be a bad move on his part if he decided to go ahead with that.
Yeah, I just think this guy is showing a worrying propensity for making bad moves. I thought his statement last week that he put on Instagram about Israel, October the 7th, and Keir Starmer's wrong response to that when he stood foursquare with Israel was extremely disturbing. What do you think about the prospect? You talked of Shabana Mahmood maybe getting Chancellor, but there is a word that Ed Miliband wants that
Foreign
job.
Secretary.
Well, that might be his brother. That might be David Miliband. But Ed Miliband, we hear, wants to be Chancellor now. Andy Burnham's in Ed Miliband's pocket. And the word is that Ed Miliband will get whatever job he wants. If that's Chancellor... what do you think about that prospect, Chancellor Ed?
I think that'd be a terrible move. I really would. I really think that'd be an awful move, especially with his association with net zero. I think to have a net zero zealot as Chancellor of the Exchequer would be terrible for the country. if truth be told. I think there's also been rumours that Miliband might be offered the role of foreign secretary. I'm not sure that Putin will be shaking in his boots anytime soon with that development. Put it that way, I think that would be a poor appointment as well. So I think that also the idea of bringing back David Miliband, I think that really, in a way, that would expose the lack of talent within the current parliamentary party. I think it's almost like you're throwing the towel in a way. It doesn't say for much that the parliamentary party is quite big because Labour won many seats in the last general election. You could say it was a landslide, even though it was more of a thin majority and it was ultimately about getting the Tories out of office. But I think that I'd really say that there's a real dearth of talent in the parliamentary party at the moment if they were to look back in terms of bringing David Miliband back to frontline politics in the UK.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rakib, to paraphrase Labour's favourite song, things can only get worse. Good to talk to you, mate. Dr. Rakib Asen, their social policy analyst. What do you think about these Caribbean nations? They're demanding trillions of pounds for compensation for the fact that Britain owned plantations and ran slaves 300 years ago in the Caribbean. Trillions. And now they want us to give up 6 countries that we still preside over in the Caribbean. Give up 6 countries, give them trillions of pounds. Should we? 0344 499 1000. Or do you share my view? It's absurd to have to pay compensation for alleged crimes that happened 3 centuries ago. Get over it. Let's move on. When we come back after this break, it's World Cup time. We're going to talk football with the Sun newspaper. That next. Stick around.
Thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Count Finface apparently is now 5-1. Brilliant. You know, so look, I mean, you know, if I were being flippant, I'd say Count Finface's campaign is now well and truly up and running, and Reform are struggling to put a lid on it.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're waiting to go over to Atlanta, where, of course, tonight England will play Argentina in the grudge match, the semi-final of the World Cup. We're waiting to talk to the Sun's chief football correspondent, who is there in the melee. He's outside the stadium. There's so many journalists and TV crews there. We're having trouble getting a line, but we're going to get him on the phone, see if we can lap up some of the atmosphere, if there's any team news. But England expects, come on, England. This is the match of our lives, is it it not. While we wait to get through... we've got Charlie now, so let's go straight over to him now. This is the chief football correspondent of The Sun, Charlie Wyatt, man of the moment, actually in Atlanta, ready for the game tonight. How excited are you, Charlie?
Greetings from Atlanta. Yeah, really excited, really looking forward to it. 8 years ago was the last World Cup semi-final, wasn't it? I'm hoping we're going to go one better this time. I'm literally, as you speak to me, just outside the stadium, but within the perimeter. I'd say it's probably, feels like 70-80% Argentina here. England are massively outnumbered, massively. So they're going to have to really give it all to make a noise because, it's... certainly, most people here have got sky blue and white shirts.
But I know you can rely on the England fans to make their presence felt. Good luck to England and good luck to the England fans. Any team news we need to know about, Charlie?
Well, I think, I think he's going to stick with the back four. Not confirmed yet. I think it looks like it could be Morgan Rogers on the right, with no Saka or Madueke, so that's a bit of a surprise. And, we're going to have Declan Rice starting, we believe, not confirmed yet. He didn't train for 3-4 days. Yeah. He had to be taken off at half-time. So, look, even if he's at 80%, he won't be 100%, he's better than what we've got. So, look, England, it's a tough match. But I think we've got to remember that, it's not just England and Argentina, that they're going to focus on the players. It might sound a bit cliched, but man for man, England are a better team. Argentina have got Lionel Messi, of course, but England, Argentina have had some really lucky wins here, and England, I'd probably say, if you were going to have a probable 11, you'd probably have 7 England and 4 Argentina. The problem with Argentina is they've got the best player in the world.
I was going to say, we're basically tonight is England against Messi United, isn't it?
They've certainly got to take him out. It's incredible that, he actually, the last game, he walks 67% of the time, but it just shows you that, he might be walking, but those, he's obviously got stardust in his boots and he can change the game with one pass. So England have got to keep an eye on him, but they've got some good players as well, Argentina. But I still think England are a better team, even though they haven't shown it at the World Cup.
Exactly right, Charlie. Exactly, I agree with you. Player for player, we've got a stronger team, but we had I would suggest, a pretty far stronger team against Norway, but that was a tough, long battle. My prediction, for what it's worth, we may see a similar tussle tonight. Might go to extra time. It's going to be close, isn't it?
It's going to be ever so close. But I'll tell you what I was thinking the other day, right? In the last game, the VIPs to watch the Norway game, there was Ashley Cole was in there, there was John Terry, and there was David Beckham. And I'm just wondering what they thought, that they never got past the quarter-final. And I wonder what those 3 players, we had like Michael Owen, didn't we, and Lampard and Gerrard, and that team could not do better than the one that had Dan Burn giving everything at the end of the game. Players like that, just Nico O'Reilly. It just shows you how the team is so important because we've got Bellingham, of course. We've got Declan Rice, we've got Harry Kane, but there are other players. They're not a team of superstars, England, but they're a good side. But they've got to give more. They've got to show more. They've got to really, really be at it tonight. And
I'll tell you what I think, Charlie, that, we've seen the best of England only once, which was in the second half of the first game against Croatia, when we played like geniuses. And we need to find that touch again. But ironically, Argentina have had the same kind of journey through the World Cup as us. Arguably, they should have performed better. Every single match, they've just toughed it out and made their superiority show in the end. So we both had very similar journeys. And I suspect tonight might be another game where 2 very good teams have to tough it out to see who will prevail. I don't imagine anybody's going to be winning 2 or 3-0 or anything like that.
No, maybe not. It'd be great, though, wouldn't it?
I'll take it. Don't get me wrong.
We certainly owe them, not just 1986, Hands of God, but, 1998 as well. This result's been... You can't always lose to the same team. You can't always lose in the semi-finals, of the World Cup. Things do change, don't they? And they have to change, and they always change in football. So that's why I think tonight, I really do think that it's England's time, and it's England's time to get into the World Cup final, and it's England's time to put the hand of God to bed. And all that sort of thing. It might not be pretty. There might be better England teams in the last few years. That doesn't matter, doesn't it? I think tonight we need Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham, maybe Anthony Gordon. He needs to come, and I really think they can do it. That back four of Argentina, we would worry about if it was our defence.
Yeah,
They need to attack them, get really stuck into them, and I'm sure Thomas Tuchel. Let's not forget. England have had some games where they've not been very good, and he has changed it. He has made the substitutions. He's helped win the game. England were, 15 minutes from getting arguably our worst ever World Cup defeat to DR Congo. An embarrassment, but he turned it round, and now we're one game from the World Cup final.
Yeah, exactly right. And let's not talk about the prospect of playing Spain in the final, the excellent Spain. Let's do this one step at a time, one game at a time. Enjoy the match tonight, Charlie. We all will. Good to talk to you. Take care. Yeah, see you at the final. Charlie White there, football editor of the Sun newspaper. I think we got a quick moment to talk to Joan in Sunderland. Hello, Joan. I didn't realise you were a football fan. What do you reckon about tonight?
Well, I love my country. I don't think it's going to be a pretty match. I think it'll be scrappy and dirty, and we need to remember the hand of God. But I also want our team, I'd love the boys to hear this. We've all heard of the Invictus game. Invictus, I remain. Yeah. I'd like to add something else to it. Invictus Manio, I remain unvanquished. Yeah. Please, England, bear that in mind and do us proud tonight.
Well said, Joan. Really good, excellent. Go England. What was that again? England Invictus vanquished.
Invictus Manio.
Invictus Manio. You got it. Joan, enjoy the match. Fantastic call. It's always good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Joan in Sunderland, a very political lady. Didn't realise she was a football fan. But yeah. Come on, England, you can do it. I agree with Charlie White. I just think there's maybe something in the air. We've had so much disappointment since 1966. It's got to come to an end at some point. Let's make it tonight, eh? Come on, England, you can do it. I really do believe we might. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to Rafe Heidel-Mancu. Go through some of the big stories of the day. And we're going to take some calls later in the show, so do get in touch. 0344 499 1000. Back after the news. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a little while, we're going to be talking about Lord of the Rings, the film series based on Tolkien's books, of course. Andy Serkis, who plays Gollum in the movies, says that the movies were very white, essentially saying there are too many white people in Lord of the Rings. Why do we have to put up with these lovies saying this nonsense? Did you enjoy those films? Did you feel that they were too white? Did that ruin your enjoyment of The Lord of the Rings? 03444991000. We'll talk about that soon. Want to hear your thoughts about the 3 asylum seekers who've just been given very lengthy prison sentences, 21 years for 2 of them, 18 years and 6 months for the other. They are the migrants who repaid this country's hospitality by letting them live here while they waited for asylum decisions, by raping a poor woman on Brighton Beach, taking her into a beach hut and defiling her, taking photos, filming them, laughing, dancing, spitting at her. She says they destroyed her life. The judge in that case, sentencing them, said when they come out of prison, there's no guarantee these 3 monsters will be deported. Why is there no guarantee? So we are a country that allows foreigners to come here, rape a British woman, viciously rape her, mock her, destroy her life. We give them long prison sentences and then we don't necessarily deport them. If that is the case, then I suggest Britain is not a serious country. We've got to do something about that. Don't you agree? 03444991000. We'll get the views on my next guest, who's going to be with me for the next 20 minutes or so, go through some of the big stories of the day. He is the excellent historian, Rafe Heidel-Manku. Welcome, Rafe.
Always a pleasure, Kevin.
Good to have you on the show. I don't know if you heard my little rant there, but let's get your view on that. 3 asylum seekers last October on Brighton Beach. It was the small hours of the morning. Took a young lady who's she had a few drinks, sort of manhandled her into a beach hut. Raped her in the most appalling way. 2 of them raping her, the other one filming. They spat at her, they laughed at her. She told the court that they've ruined her life. They did something that she can never, ever get over. They've been given 21 years, 2 of them 21 years, another 18 years and 6 months. Longish sentences, I guess. The judge in the case said, though, at the end of their sentences, when they come out of prison, and I'm quoting, there is no guarantee they will be deported. Why is there no guarantee they will be deported? A country that doesn't deport people like that is not a serious country.
Well, you've answered your own question. We aren't a serious country. We haven't been a serious country for years. We are now in a situation where we, time and again, prioritise the lives and the interests of the foreigner over our own people. And there's only so much of that can go on before you see a counter movement against all of that. And there's no wonder that you're seeing rising levels of intolerance when people can see daily almost in this country an affront to natural justice, an affront to fairness. You know, there's a very good English phrase, it's just not critic. And this sticks in the craw because it defends every shred of what we believe to be the right and just thing. And who cares if we deport them and they end up having to face capital punishment because one of these chaps was alleged to have committed murder? At least that's what he claims, and that's why he can't be deported. And we had too much talk about, oh, well, we can't leave the European Convention on Human Rights, which, of course, is what the judges always cite. We can't leave the ECHR, and, of course, it's going to affect Northern Ireland as well. We don't need to worry about any of that. The Danes are still in the ECHR. They were hauled before the ECHR time and again for prioritising the Danish people and for making life very tough for asylum seekers. There is no international police force. There's no European army that can come and arrest Keir Starmer or Andy Burnham if they had the backbone to actually put British people first and say, yes, we are going to deport you where you came from, and if your home country doesn't take you, well, we're going to stop visas, we're going to stop aid. And if they still won't take you, well, we'll find a third country. Well, you know what? We're going to send you off to the South Georgia Islands, and you can fend for yourself in a windswept island in the middle of the Atlantic. It's about time we stop this, because there was a time when a story like this would have been front page news in the papers for days and days. But these are coming far too frequently, far too thick. You know, just think what happened when Lee Rigby was beheaded, how much that occupied of the media. Now we get similar atrocities today. Within a week, it's all forgotten. That should not be, and it should never be, something to which we get used to what happened to that poor girl on what should be one of the great holiday resorts of this country.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We mustn't get hardened to this, but this kind of thing does happen far too often. Let's move on. Let's talk about Nigel Farage. We learned today that one guy has been arrested today for threatening to shoot Nigel Farage. That was on social media. We also learned that since February, Farage has received 1,577 death threats, 597 of them on one single social media site, Twitter, or X as it's now called. What do you make? What's your thought on the commentators and the political opponents of Reform UK who say that since the brutal murder of Ann Widdecombe, their friend and colleague, Reform UK politicians, especially Nigel Farage, have been cashing in on that tragedy, exploiting it to get their other financial problems off the front page. What do you make of the fact that we're watching footage here of Nigel Farage laying flowers, paying his respects? All the Reform UK MPs went down on Sunday to do just that, all the way down to Devon. Natalie Fleet, for example, the Labour safeguarding minister, safeguarding for women, tweeted that she was sick of their faux outrage. What do you make of people who accuse Starmer and his MPs and his party of exploiting Ann Widdecombe's death, their friend and colleague, as if when she got murdered they all went, oh, that's handy, we can really use this? What do you think about people who say that?
Well, I think it's a disgusting statement to make, and to say that Reform MPs and Reform supporters are displaying faux outrage. How dare you? You know, Reform has lost one of its own. A stalwart supporter for Nigel long before the Reform Party, going back to the days of the Brexit Party. And I just find it remarkable that we are, you know, literally just a few days after Ann Widdecombe's death, and we already are seeing now so much. You expect it from the far left crazies, but to have people who are allegedly serious politicians and others politicize this so soon and so quickly after Ann's death, when there's still an investigation on, I think is absolutely disgusting. And it just goes to show, I think, that the lack of empathy they have, and they're actually incapable of feeling what any human should feel at a moment like this, because of course questions have to now be raised about the security of other people. It's undeniable that of all the MPs in Parliament, Reform MPs are the ones most likely to be attacked or most at risk, I would say. Just look at what's happened in America. Virtually every one of the violent attacks against President Trump, or the attempts on Trump, or the Charlie Kirk, this now comes from the left. It is the left who are actually the great threat. You have radical Islam and you have the left. But what do we hear from Prevent? It's all about the right. This far right, this mythical far right. Yes, of course, there are some elements on the right. We've just had apparently in Suffolk an alleged right-wing conspiracy there. But the reality is, it's eco-terrorism. It's just stop oil. It's, you know, it's this Palestine action. It's these lone crazies, as may be the case with Ann Widdecombe. And so anybody who is on the right, who actually is expressing views that aren't full of hate or vitriol. These are just the views of people in this country, the common sense viewers of talk who are worried about the state of this country. We've now become so demonized. We've become these pantomime villains. And it's because of these same commentators who are attacking Nigel and Reform and are saying that they're full of faux outrage. Well, they've been full of faux outrage. People like Angela Rayner saying Tory scum. You know, you don't see people walking around on the streets when there's a right-wing protest. You don't see signs saying Green scum or Labour scum.
Yeah, you don't.
But the left have a visceral hatred for the right that isn't replicated. And so it's no surprise that you're seeing this sort of thing happening now on our streets.
Yeah, Dan Hannan, Lord Dan Hannan, had a good, interesting piece in the Mail a couple of days ago saying just that there's a difference between the way left-wingers respond to those with whom they disagree to the way that right-wingers respond. You know, my feeling about these lunatic left-wingers who believe in kumbaya and spending all our budget on welfare, I just find them, I think they're mistaken. I think they're almost laughably wrong. I don't hate them. And I'm willing to debate them. But they look at people like me and you, and they loathe us, they hate us, and they want us dead. They don't seem to be able to brook civilised disagreement. Let's have a look at Zia Youssef, the Home Affairs spokesman for Reform UK, earlier today delivered a long and passionate speech on just this topic. Let's have a listen to what Zia had to say.
David Lammy, now the Deputy Prime Minister, described Anne as a, quote, poisonous bigot who wants to, quote, drag us back to the 19th century and, quote, throw minorities out in the cold on the way. He boldly declared, quote, we must stand up to them before it's too late. Before it's too late. We're streeting. Until recently, the Health Secretary said, quote, if only science had a cure for Ann Widdecombe. A woman on Twitter said, quote, Ann Widdecombe better go this week. She is a little fascist beast. This woman happens to have been, until just a few months ago, the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls, Jess Phillips. Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, made the inflammatory declaration that, quote, the greatest threat to the Britain we love doesn't come from Tehran or Moscow. It comes from within. I'm talking about Nigel Farage.
What is it about Labour politicians in particular, but people of the left? Why can't they be more dignified in the way they conduct political discourse? What they do is they insult. And what Zia was also making a point about, a very serious point, is this kind of invective used by Ed Davey, David Lammy, Jess Phillips, Natalie Fleet, this OTT rhetoric, you know, calling Reform UK Nazis, fascists, evil, actually leads to these little loner keyboard warriors becoming real-life violent lunatics. They fuel the kind of madness that ends in the death of people like Ann Widdecombe. That was his point. I think it's a good point.
Yeah, there's no difference between these sorts of incendiary comments made by senior politicians and the sort of thing you hear from mad mullahs in mosques about the Jews or about any group. They're radicalizing the youth of this country. You see it amongst the young Muslims who are now far more radicalized, and you see it amongst our own indigenous British youth. We have the most left-wing youth in history, and they are being fed a constant diet of in which the right are literally seen as evil. People on the right tend to think people on the left are slightly daft or they're mistaken. But there's a genuine visceral hatred because they think that the policies of the right are designed to be cruel rather than simply to offer solutions to problems that exist. And all of the polling shows this, and psychologists have done this too. In America and in Britain, you ask people on the left and the right, how would you feel if somebody from a different political party married your daughter or lived next door to you. And everywhere you look in America and in Britain, it's the same thing. People on the left have a much bigger problem with somebody of a different political view marrying into their family, being a close friend, or living next door to them than it's the other way around. And anecdotally, your viewers will know this because I've only been defriended by people who have left-wing views. I've never defriended anybody on Facebook or on social media, but it's happened to me. And it's a deeply worrying thing because I don't know how we heal this chasm. We've got to a point now. There was a point in the 1980s, I remember, you would have fierce debates in Congress, for example, and a Republican and a Democrat would then go for a drink afterwards. That never happens any longer. There's no socializing between both sides after hours. It's deeply worrying, it's deeply insidious, and it requires more maturity and a better understanding from our political class about the sort of world that they have created. And of course, it's also the case on the right as well. Yes, there are right-wing loonies as well who will have a go after people on the left. And there are many people on the left who suffer unfairly too through all of that. We have to remember Joe Cox too. It's in all of our interest to tone down the rhetoric and the heat.
I think you're right. But I think the real problem of the left is they believe that they're saintly, that their worldview is touched by the hand of God, if I can use that phrase controversially today as we prepare to play Argentina in the semi-final of the World Cup. They believe God is on their side. They believe they are holy and saintly, and therefore their opponents, the right wing, are evil. They are literally evil and they are full of malintent. It's ridiculous. They need a good talking to. Let me get you on this, Rafe, because I think this is up your street. I thought of you when I saw this story. There is a delegation in London representing 15 countries right now. They are urging the King and other prominent members of our political community to hand over effectively what would add up to trillions of pounds in reparations for slavery, for Britain's role in running slaves during the days of the plantations 300 years ago, 3 centuries ago. They've added to the mix on this trip here. This is, they're called CARICOM, it's the Caribbean Community. They have added a key demand to the trillions of pounds they want in compensation for slaves 300 years ago. They want us to hand over British holdings of the Caribbean territories of the Turks and Caicos, Anguilla, Montserrat, the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. I just think this nonsense has got to stop. I just was talking to Raquel Basin about it. I just think this is an infantile dialogue, an infantile discourse. We need to get grown up. And look forward, not backwards. The whole concept of anyone compensating anyone else for something that happened 300 years ago is incoherent and mad.
Yes, and this new angle, this demand from the independent Caribbean nations that Britain, America, France and the Netherlands give up their territories, their colonies in the Caribbean, that demand really shows you how this corrosive progressive ideology of post-colonial theory, critical race theory, has completely captured these institutions and poisoned the minds of the leaders of places like Jamaica and the head of CARICOM and elsewhere. Because by every measure, those places in the Caribbean, which Britain and France, like Guadeloupe and Martinique, or America with Puerto Rico, or the Netherlands and Aruba, those are all far wealthier, far more stable and prosperous than the countries that have independence. And if you were given someone a choice, you can live in a country which has independence in the Caribbean or one which is still a colony, you always go for the colony because you'll be wealthier and also you'll be safer. If you look at the crime rates, you just look at the infrastructure, by every measure, independence is the pathway to ruin. And the people in the Caribbean know this. In 2011, there was a major poll done in Jamaica, and 60% said Jamaica would be better off if the British still ran it, compared to only 17% who said it would be worse off. And in Jamaica, there are now currently 24 hospitals, 23 of them were built by the British before independence in 1962. Only one was built thereafter. But you see, they won't admit any of this. They are so brainwashed by this progressive ideology that they would happily make the people in Turks and Caicos and everywhere else poorer just to advance their ideology. That's how deeply insidious it is. But I would say to those people like CARICOM and others calling for the Caribbean to be decolonized, well, if you really want to decolonize these places, get rid of the clean water, get rid of the power stations, get rid of the hospitals and the medicine and the schools and the universities and your government and your civil service and your army and your police. And let's go back to the way things used to be, when your life expectancy was 20 years or 30 years shorter and you were 10 times poorer.
Yeah, I always say that if, you know, life under British imperial control, colonies was so dreadful, so repressive, so awful for these countries, how come there are still 59 of those countries who voluntarily still belong to the British Commonwealth? Riddle me that, Rafe. Stay where you are, because you're going to come back to us after the break, and we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, the films and the books, which one of the stars of the show, of the films, says is very, very white. Doesn't want it to be so white, even though it's about Norse people. They're not particularly black, are they? We will talk about that after these messages. Stay tuned.
I've thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Count Binface apparently is now 5-1. Brilliant. You know, so look, I mean, you know, if I were being flippant, I'd say Count Binface's campaign is now well and truly up and running, and Reform are struggling to put a lid on it.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Still with historian Rafe Heidel-Mankoo. Rafe, let's talk about movies. We're going to discuss Lord of the Rings, or the latest manifestation of that series of films and books. This, of course, comes hot on the heels of the exciting news that the new big epic movie version of the Odyssey will star a Helen of Troy played by a black actress and a trans woman, man, whatever it is, will play the role of Odysseus's fellow warrior Sinis. So that's that film. We've got another one coming up. That is a film by Andy Serkis, who played Gollum in the Lord of the Rings films. He's making a film called The Hunt for Gollum, and he's criticising the films that made him famous, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He said that the cast was very white. This is after a 25-year row over the lack of diversity in those films. He talks himself, this is Andy Serkis talking to the BBC. He said Tolkien, who of course wrote the books, himself was influenced a lot by Norse mythology. There's a lot of that feeling. The Shire feels very, very much like a very very white, you know, he says. The people in the Shire are not very concerned about what goes on beyond the borders of the Shire, but they know they don't want people coming in. So what do you say to the fact that the films, and I guess by extension Tolkien's books, The Lord of the Rings, are too white, are very white? I mean, is there any room in these stories for people of colour? I mean, I've read the books. Didn't strike me there are any natural roles for people of colour in the film versions.
Well, I'm just reminded of that great scene from Fawlty Towers, when Basil Fawlty's got this elderly lady who's complaining about the view from her Torquay hotel window. And he says, what do you expect to see from a Torquay window? Hanging Gardens of Babylon, Sydney Opera House, herds of wildebeest sweeping majestically across the landscape. Yeah. I mean, let's get real here. Firstly, Tolkien was writing at a time when Britain was 99.9% white. And as you said, you know, this reflects very much Norse mythology, English mythology. He was actually, if you read Lord of the Rings, much of it was inspired by his environment in the Midlands. The Two Towers are outside Birmingham. The Shire's also part of the Midlands. That's why you get the phrase Middle Earth. You have Midlands and Middle Earth here referenced. So of course he's going to use local themes, and we can't judge the past by today's characters. I also have a lot of issue with Andy Serkis, because remember, he's the one who's come out with this new woke version of Animal Farm. A new version of Animal Farm has never been more relevant to actually focus on the madness of the left. Animal Farm, of course, was warning about what happened with communism under Stalin. There's another time for that now, but instead of that, he's ignored all of that, and there's no relevance to the issues that Orwell raised about the perversion on the left, and indeed it's become quite a comical farce. So he himself is immersed in woke ideology, but it's always one way, isn't it? You never see anyone complaining about, if they remade Zulu, would anyone dare to complain that there's not enough white people in the Swaziland army?
Yeah, and why you know, when you get productions of Othello, regularly, of course, you get actors of colour who play what you might call traditional white parts in Shakespeare's plays. I mean, Shakespeare didn't write that many roles for people of colour, but he did write some. For example, Othello. You never get a white person playing Othello, do you? When they go in for this, what do they call it, colourblind casting. It's always one way, isn't it? It's always the other way. Never do you get a white person given what you might call a traditional black role.
Yes, and that goes back to what I said at the beginning of our interview. It's the hypocrisy here, it's the double standards, and it's the fact that it's just not cricket. It's always us who has to make the concessions here. And, we just had, of course, the example of a black lesbian playing Othello. They call this misogynoir. Thinking, of course, that this is going to be so courageous that we have a woman and a lesbian playing a male role.
That's the RSC.
It's not courageous. It's not a maverick move. This is exactly what you expect. A really brave move would be to have a white man play Othello and have all the other cast as black. Now, that would be interesting to watch, but no one's brave enough to do that, are they?
No, because it's in the wrong direction, as always. Going to be watching the match tonight, Rafe?
I only watch football once every 4 years, so yes.
Okay, good. We'll make a football fan. We'll make a football thug of you, yeah. You'll be a hooligan by the time I finish with you. Rafe, fantastic to have you on the show, as always. Rafe Heidelmanku, historian from the New Culture Forum. Let me know what you think about some of the things he was saying. Is The Lord of the Rings, are the films too white? Are the books too white? 03444991000. After the break, we'll talk to Matt Hutchinson, talkSPORT reporter, as we build up towards tonight's grudge match, the semi-final, England versus Argentina, 8 p.m. here in Britain. England expects, come on, Harry, come on, Jude. Hey, Jude, you better win. We'll talk to Matt Hutchinson from talkSPORT next. Stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, Matt Hutchison, TalkSport reporter, is in the studio. Who's going to win tonight, Matt? Will it be England or will it be Lionel Messi United?
I'm going with the Three Lions, Kevin. Unsurprising, given we're sat in central London right now.
Yeah.
I would say 2-1 after extra time, which would replicate the quarter-final for England. But it's never easy, Kevin, is it? For England, in a knockout game, it's always stressful, it's always edgy. I can't see us beating Argentina comfortably, nor the other way around. I can't see Argentina beating us well. But yeah, 2-1 England for me after extra time.
I mean, it seems to me that on paper, player for player, England has a stronger squad. But Argentina are obviously no slouches, particularly since they contain the best footballer in the world, who's still remarkable at the age of, what is he, 38 now, Messi? Amazing player. So he, in himself, can be a game changer. But both teams throughout the World Cup, frankly, have underperformed. Both teams have struggled and basically prevailed in quite often rather miserable, tough matches, but shown their superiority in the end. I mean, Argentina, for God's sake, even struggled against Cape Verde. But we're both here in the semi-final. I would predict a similar game, a long, not necessarily a beautiful struggle that, as you say, may well go to extra time.
I think both sides, Kevin, they're incomplete and flawed, and that's what may well make this semi-final an amazing game. Neither play perfect, fluid, attacking football. They're not in the same ilk, I would say, as Spain, who outplayed France last night completely. But England, what they do have is players at the top end of the pitch who are world-class, whether it's Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane. The Argentines, of course, have Julian Alvarez and Lionel Messi. No matter how poorly or inconsistent their team are playing, they have strikers and attacking players who can really make the difference. And I think ultimately it'll be a battle of which set of attacking players perform at their best tonight. I think if Harry Kane or Jude Bellingham are at their best, England should win. But as you say, with I think a 39-year-old Lionel Messi still pulling the strings for Argentina, it's going to be no easy task.
Exactly right. And, you know, I think ever since the start of the World Cup, England have managed 45 minutes of supremely good football, which was the second half of the very first game against Croatia.
Yeah.
If we can get anywhere near the way we played against Croatia in the second half, then, you know, I'm certain we'll prevail. Our problem has been the sum of the part. We haven't managed to achieve what I think we could achieve. We haven't shown the brilliance that I think we're capable of. The same story could be said for Argentina. But tonight is the night to find our full potential, if we can, isn't it?
It feels like a date with destiny, really, for Thomas Tuchel. This is why the FA paid the big bucks and went against the grain, really, hiring a German to manage England for these clutch moments, Kevin. I mean, what I would say is, under Gareth Southgate, England didn't always play fluid, attacking football, particularly in the last tournament, the Euros in 2024, but they got through and found a way to win. Yeah. Thomas Tuchel was supposedly this world-class elite manager. I wouldn't say there's been a dramatic shift in style of football or formation from Gareth Southgate, but what he has done is have an experience of getting over the line. When he was at Chelsea, he had a weaker side in the final against Manchester City and won that final. England, it's a 50-50 match today, really, Kevin. Could go either way. One would hope Thomas Tuchel, whether it's with his starting 11 or bringing certain players off the bench, can be that difference maker, maybe where Gareth Southgate previously fell short.
Well, this has been put on my screen. I assume it's breaking news about the team. This is the England team tonight, apparently. Pickford, of course, James, Stones, Gay, Spence, Rice, Anderson, Rodgers, Bellingham, Gordon and Kane. So I suppose what's interesting that Rodgers is chosen, Stones in at the back. We've had some problems with the defence. What do you think about that lineup?
Well, it's a revolving door at right back, Kevin. That's the first thing I'd say throughout this tournament. Not taking Trent Alexander-Arnold has proven, in my opinion, to be the wrong call. You would have Reece James, most England fans, as your starting right back, but his injury record has been checkered for many years now. So you need a right back who plays regularly for his club in that position as a backup. Anyway, Trent's not there. Reece James is back in the starting 11 from what we understand at talkSPORT. Many fans will be happy to see that. A genuine right back, fully fit. It's not, you know, a Jarell Quansah or an Ezri Konsa filling in that position who naturally play at centre-half. The other significant change is Morgan Rogers.
Yes.
Again, not playing in his natural position, though, Kevin, off the right-hand side, rather than a Noni Madueke or a Bukayo Saka, who are out-and-out wingers. I personally would have preferred to see a proper old-school winger who can run beyond Harry Kane, and not to get too technical, but Harry Kane can then drop deep and start spraying passes. My concern is Morgan Rogers is another ball player and could congest that central area where Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane are playing at their best. So you need people who can run beyond Harry Kane. It may be Thomas Tuchel keeps them on the bench. Saka, Madueke, Rashford can come on and potentially make the difference against tiring defenders later on.
I guess that with Saka, I mean, I'd pick him every day of the week, except for he seems to have been haunted by slight injury problems. He's not quite been 100% fit, has he?
Indeed, and towards the back end of the season for Arsenal, that was evident, Kevin. I think Bukayo Saka wasn't at his sharpest, at his brightest, but what I would say is having him to come on in, let's say, the 60th or 70th minute could really be crucial. And if you're the left-back of Argentina, it won't be Lisandro Martinez, but someone else playing in that position, what you don't want to see when you're up against it and fatigued is Saka running at you with 20 minutes to go. So a weapon to bring off the bench.
I like the new word for substitutes at the World Cup. It's finishers. Finishers.
It's just to keep them happy, I think.
Yeah, it's quite a good term, though. I mean, our substitutions, or the calibre of our substitutes, is strong.
Indeed, yeah. As I mentioned, we've got Rashford who can come on for Gordon off the left. We've got Madueke or Saka off the right. Watkins and, I mean, Ivan Toney, for example, hasn't even played a minute in this World Cup yet. If it comes to penalties, do not be surprised if Ivan Toney comes off the bench with a couple of minutes to go, because he's an expert penalty taker. Kobbie Mainoo, again, hasn't played a minute of this entire World Cup. Another talented midfielder. So there are plenty of options there. It's picking the right options. I wouldn't have started Morgan Rogers off the right, but Thomas Tuchel sees these players day in, day out in training around the camp, and he'll know who's really looking sharp, who maybe is struggling with an injury. He is, but for me, it's either him or Bellingham, and not both. But hopefully, from an England perspective, they can work together tonight.
And what was your predicted score again?
2-1 England after extra time. How about you?
I think it might be a 1-0 after extra time. I think it's going to be really close.
Edgy.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be sort of beautiful football.
If we get through, no one's going to care in this country.
Yeah, no, I mean, none of us will have any fingernails left tomorrow, I tell you. I'm so nervous. Matt Hutchinson, great. Enjoy the game.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll have you in tomorrow.
Treasure the moment.
Yeah, we'll have you in tomorrow to celebrate our fantastic victory and talk about the prospect of final. By the way, one last word about that. Don't fancy facing Spain in the final, would you?
I mean, based on their performance last night, England or Argentina are going to be underdogs in that final. But in my head, get to that position first. Focus on tonight, get through, which isn't a guarantee by any means, then worry about Spain afterwards. But it's been great. It's been a real lift for the country the last few weeks, and hopefully that can continue till Sunday.
Oh, and one more last word as a sports expert. What the hell? I watched that game last night. What the hell happened to France? I thought they were supremely the best team in the tournament. They just didn't turn up last night.
A great example of the best players not always making the best team. Their attacking weapons, France, are as good as you could hope for in the entire World Cup. They were favourites for this tournament. Mbappe, Dembele, real attacking players. I mean, Michael Olise, who should really be playing for England, Olise, but that's a separate conversation.
Yeah, I know that,
but France, if your attacking players don't turn up, can you work cohesively as a team to find a way in the way that England have when they haven't been playing their best? They found a way to get through, and France just folded, and Spain just outplayed them. France, no doubt, beaten by the better team on the day, and refreshing to see a team with not as many so-called star name, still some fantastic players, but maybe fewer egos in the Spain team getting over the line. I thought Rodri, Man City's Rodri, was brilliant last night.
Spain were amazing last night. Good to watch.
A deserved win.
Good to watch as well. And Mbappe, you know, France's national sports newspaper, L'Equipe team, they apparently have never given Mbappe less than 7 out of 10 for any game he's ever played. Last night they gave him 3 out of 10.
Wow. But he didn't
Dembele they gave 2.
Yeah, I mean, they're notoriously quite harsh raters, L'Equipe. So if they're giving Mbappe normally a 7 or above, it shows his quality.
Oh, yeah,
but he deserves a low scoring for last night. He didn't turn up, and when your players around you also don't turn up, your so-called star players, you haven't got much chance of beating a Spanish side who looked really at their pomp in their peak last night.
Until last night, I was thinking, well, if we do get to the final, you know, I hope Spain. I hope it's Spain and not France. Well, I changed my mind now.
We'll see if we get there, Kevin.
Yeah,
it's going to be a stressful night. Either way, it's going to be a stressful night. But if I think if Kane and/or Bellingham come to the party tonight, England will get through. My concern is we've been so reliant on them throughout this tournament. It might be a game where neither score. Can someone else deliver the goods, whether it's a Rodgers or a Gordon or a Rashford? Let's see.
Matt Hutchinson, enjoy the game tonight. We'll get you in tomorrow to celebrate the victory.
Enjoy.
What do you think? Matt Hutchinson, TalkSport there. Let's go to break. We'll take some calls afterwards. You know what we're talking about. 03444 991 1000. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second.
Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000.
The question is, what would you do with all that money?
I don't know. We've got a wedding.
I would buy a camper van.
Probably just like clothes, yeah.
Go on a big holiday. Emigrate.
So if you fancy getting your hands on £26,000 tax-free, here's all the details you need to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 8338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1 PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP. To arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 8338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
I've thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Count Binface apparently is now 5 to 1. Brilliant. You know, so look, I mean, you know, if I were being flippant, I'd say Count Binface's campaign is now well and truly up and running, and Reform are struggling to put a lid on it.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 15 minutes to go. 1 hour and 15 minutes to kick off in Atlanta. England versus the old enemy Argentina in the semi-final of the World Cup. Come on, boys. The Three Lions can do it, don't you think? What do you mean, no? Yeah, they can. They really can. I've got a feeling it's in the air. I honestly do. It's about time, you know. all that disappointment since 1966. We've got to put it right. At least make the final. Come on. Coming up against Spain, ooh, I don't know about that. They are one hell of a team. They proved that last night. Let's read a few messages before I go to the phone that you've been kind enough to send in. This is from Roger in Hounslow. He says, Keir Starmer, Kev. Keir Starmer's farewell PMQ speech today was nauseating, with him telling the House how well Labour have done in the 2 years under his stewardship. What? Yeah, I agree with that, Roger. It's like, shut up, stop lying to us. You have been a catastrophe. 2 terrible years of unbridled disaster. Mistake after mistake after mistake. The economy in the toilet, the migrant crisis are worse than it's ever been. That idiot Ed Miliband plunging us into net zero insanity, bankrupting the country. It's an absolute shambles. But don't worry, folks, Andy Burnham will make it a lot better. Or will he make it worse? I suspect it's the latter. This is Rich. He says, hi, Kev. Why did they have the Falkland Islanders? Why did they have no passports in 1982? And why did Argentina land? Well, we weren't protecting them properly in those days, and it was an anomaly. When it emerged that the Falkland Islanders didn't have British passports, everyone's going, well, why? And they immediately got them, and ever since then we've really bolstered up security and military defence of those islands. They're not Argentinian, they're British, and the people on those islands are British, and they want to be British, so we have to defend them for their sake. It's about self-determination. This is from Kim. My prediction for England tonight, 4-2 to England. Come on, England. Great show, Kev. As always, thanks, Kim. 4-2. All right, I'll take that. Barbara this is Jeff from Chesson, says Argentina will have 15 men as they have had all through the tournament. 11 players, Messi's favourite referee, 2 linesmen and VAR. Plus, Charlie Wyatt from The Sun, who's at the stadium in Atlanta, telling us that 3/4 of the fans are Argentinian. So it's a sea of blue and white. Light blue and white, and the England fans, heavily outnumbered, will have to make their presence felt, and I'm sure they will. Great fans they are, absolutely devoted, fanatical. So good luck to England and good luck to the England fans out there. Good for you. George says, the only time I will consider to pay reparations is after the Portuguese Empire, the Spanish Empire, the Arab Empire, the African nations pay up their reparations first. Then we can get paid reparations for we can get paid for ending slavery. Then I may consider it. George says he's a black British citizen. Thanks for that, George. This is about... there's no name on it. It just says about Gibraltar. Hasn't Spain just given 500,000 migrants rights to live in Spain? Yes, they have. And he says, will they now be able to live in Gibraltar? Doubtless. It's absolutely ridiculous. Someone else points out about Keir Starmer. Did Keir Starmer, we're talking about Devon and Cornwall Police, this is Suze, she said, did Keir Starmer not challenge the police? I would have done. I don't take anything on face value these days and can't believe that a clever barrister would just say, oh, all right, Tar, good work. How about, are you sure? That's when they told him it looked like it was a burglary that had gone wrong, the death of Ann Widdecombe, when it was no such thing. It looks as if it was very much politically motivated and premeditated. But the Prime Minister went around telling everybody burglary went wrong because Devon and Cornwall, the Keystone Cops of Devon and Cornwall Police told him that. Ridiculous. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Tarquin in London. Hi, Tarquin.
Kev, brilliant show as usual.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, Kevin, what we're seeing now, I mean, I'm total echoing what you were saying earlier, really, and there's a lot of people, the comments have said similar things whilst I've been waiting. But I think, in general, you know, I haven't got much time, I know, but I mean, I think what we're really watching is the final death rattle of Labour in any flavour that he wants to present to the British public. It's just completely just rattling away, rearranging deck tech with Andre, what's his name? Andre Bermanoff, the cosplay commie, coming in to replace the self-aggrandising, self-praise is no praise, Keir Starmer.
I reckon. I mean, I'm pretty worried about Burnham. I mean, he barely disguises his far left extremism, I would put it. I mean, he really is. I mean, that video he put on Instagram last week about Israel was an absolute disgrace, saying that when Keir Starmer said we stand foursquare with Israel after the October the 7th Hamas atrocity, he said that that was all wrong. We got it all wrong. We've got to do better. Pro-Palestine, free Palestine and all that stuff. The poor people of Gaza. In other words, classic, old-school, Corbyn-esque, socialist, anti-Israel claptrap.
It really is, and I think what they do when they do this, they think that they can't think that they're hoodwinking us. They can always perform well when they're giving this crap faux foreign rhetoric, but when it comes to domestic politics, they're at sixes and sevens, aren't they? They're all over the place, destroying everything, dismantling this country in any way they can with their Fabian agenda, and sadly, what's his face, Burnham, he's a Fabian, so we haven't got rid of him yet, you know.
Oh, yeah, he's further left, he's a lot further left than Starmer. As I say, I fear that within a couple of months we'll be nostalgic for the good old days of Keir Starmer. I really do fear this. This guy, you know, we're hearing things about land tax, where you will no longer pay council tax, you'll pay tax according to the value of your home, which means if you're one of these people who bought a house in the 1960s or something in somewhere like Hampstead, you don't have to be rich, you could have got a house pretty cheap then, you still live in it, it might be worth $5 million, you'll be paying something like £25,000 a year. A one-room flat in Islington will set the owners back £12,000 a year. He is, I fear, he's an old-school socialist, tax the rich and give it to benefit claimers.
You know, I totally concur with that, and I think one other thing that's akin to that is the tax threshold, where you've got poor people on state pension of about 12.5 grand a year, and the tax threshold for personal tax has not risen in God knows how many years, and it doesn't be planned to rise again until 2031 at about 12,750 round about there, and it's going to crash into the point where people on state pension, Kev, are going to be paying tax to the HMRC.
Look, I mean, you know, let's give Mr. Burnham, King Andy, the benefit of the doubt. I hope he does a good job. You know, I hope he pulls this country out of the mire. But I don't think he will. But who knows? Because he's a straw man. We don't know anything about him yet. He hasn't said anything. He's been crowned. He's too scared to say anything, and that's why they're calling him the coronation chicken. Tarquin, great to talk to you. Good to talk to you again, actually. Tarquin in London there. Let's go to Pat, also in London. Hello, Pat.
Hello there. Just before I get on to the point like I want to make, I've got a good... he looks the spitting image of Joe 90, the Jerry Anderson puppet in the 60s.
Yeah. He does
with the glasses on.
Yeah, he does. You're right. He does.
Yeah, Joe. Well, that's what you need to call him, Joe Boy.
He looks
Joe
more
90.
like Andy Burnham. I think looks more like Brains in Thunderbirds.
Well, like Joe Brains then.
Yeah, he does. What you want to talk about MP's security? You got any ideas?
Well, this is my idea, and if in my universe, hypothetical, they'd be all handed tasers, right?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Number one, they'd have to be registered. They'd have to go to the local police station and have lessons how to use it.
Yeah. I think that's quite a good idea, and perhaps because it wouldn't be as expensive as these proposals to give every single 650 MPs 24/7 full security. I'll tell you, Pat, as a nation, we can't afford that. So we ought to get real about this debate, and we ought to be thinking about interesting ideas like you just proposed. Give them all a teaser. Pat, I've got to move on because the show's nearly over, but thank you for a good call as always. Let me take a last call. Peter Cardwell's in the studio, but he can wait another 30 seconds. Let's talk to Tristan in Bolton. Hello, Tristan.
Hiya.
Reparations, Caribbean football. Reparations.
Yeah, can I just quickly on the football?
Yeah.
England were outnumbered in 1982 by Argentina. Thousands of miles from home. We won then. We'll win tonight.
Yeah. They've won the odd football match against us, but we won the big match, didn't we, in 1982? Yeah. In fact, we thrashed them. So let's not forget that.
No. So, reparations.
Yeah.
Where they pulled this £22 trillion out the air from? Who are we paying? What are we paying for? There's nobody alive today who was a slave.
I know, it's ridiculous. Tristan, you don't have to lay that out. It doesn't hold any logic whatsoever that we should be paying £22 trillion for something that happened 3 centuries ago. Absolutely absurd. And in case anyone's forgotten, we were the country that first abolished slavery about 65 years before America did and a lot of other countries. So we led the charge on that. And if those Caribbean countries think they're getting a penny off us, they got another thing coming. They really have. Tristan, I've got to move on, but thank you. Good call. Tristan in Bolton, and he's in the studio. It is Peter Cardwell. What an audience you're going to have tonight.
I think it's going to be sustained the whole way through. It's not going to drop at any point, like at 8 o'clock or something like that.
I had to do this. Who were we playing? One of the matches, and the one after. Was it the one after the quarter-final? Yeah. I had it in the middle of my show. So I dedicated the show, and you should maybe try this to football haters everywhere.
Yes.
We've got quite a few people getting in touch.
Scottish, Welsh and Northern Irish viewers and listeners as well.
This one's for Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland and people who hate football. There you go.
Exactly.
That's Peter's show. What's going to be on it?
We're going to talk about the threat to MPs, including the man arrested after threatening to shoot Nigel Farage, but also what Zia Youssef has been saying, the Home Affairs spokesman for Reform UK. He is the one who called Conservatives traitors. He also says Keir Starmer was a sick, depraved man. Is he perhaps part of the problem as well? And should we all take things down a notch? We'll talk about reparations, as you have been as well. Also, Gary